Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is our first live in a while that we've done. I think we're going back to kind of middle of the league. Here we are after weekend 2. Just a few things to talk about along the way. Waterford down the banner at Welsh Park this afternoon. Cork cruising past 14-man Tipperary at the park as well. Dublin again have proved to be a thorn for Wexford in what was a thriller on Saturday evening. Galway won without the cameras there. We'll talk about Dolly Burke's red card maybe a little bit. Kilkenny having a routine win with a big second half performance in Corrigan Park this afternoon against Antrim as well. We had diving. We had a penalty in the Dublin-Wexford game that never went over the line, which I'm sure is going to spark talk of VAR. Keith Roster says he doesn't want to see it, despite his team getting a decision given against them. We had a red card produced after a couple of minutes today as well. So all that to look forward to. The red card last night also took the entire halftime break to be produced. Cyril Farrell said afterwards it was like the OK Corral, where there were 4 referees waiting for the Galway team coming back out for the second half to send off Dahi Burke. I know that annoyed a lot of Galway supporters. Maybe we can dig into the idea of referees not being from the next opponents, where it puts James Owens into a really awkward position where he sends off Dahi Burke. Dahi Burke is then suspended for the Wexford game, and the referee gets the blame for it, and people will accuse the referee of being in a compromised position. Maybe referees don't need to be in that position. So that's all to talk about. We're taking all of your comments, which are kind of streaming in along the way on the YouTube live at the moment as well. But first of all, Paul Murphy, welcome back home. How are you?
Good, lads. How are you?
Not giving up too much about his undisclosed location last week. And James Skehill, how are you?
So far, so good. How are you?
Yeah. Most importantly, you're both in the right position. There was at least 3 people last week who went, what the fuck is going on? The lads are in the wrong place.
I wouldn't have even noticed, to be honest.
I didn't realise. I think what happened was you rejoined Murph just before we recorded last week and you popped to the left-hand side and I forgot to flick you back over to the other side. I thought, no big deal. Looked at the video, went, that's funny. They're on the wrong way. No one's even going to notice this. They did.
Will, I was so hungover last week, right? If you put me in the middle, I wouldn't have noticed. So, thank God I'm in better form today.
Oh, who knows? Maybe the middle awaits you at some point. Yes, it's kind of weird. We didn't have the competitive fairs that we had of last week, where we had 2 thrilling draws in Munster, but still loads to talk about. Waterford fans have been particularly onto us, I think, across the afternoon. A few accusing us. I think the hurling snob, I'm going to say, was one of them, who said, is this going to be one of those 5-minute Waterford podcasts tonight where you guys go, Clare have been beaten, let's put the entire focus of the pod on what's happened to Clare as opposed to giving Waterford any type of credit. I think you had a similar experience on social media earlier, Murph, where you went, bloody hell, that's some performance from Stephen Bennett. And straight away it was, you've been writing off Waterford for years.
I got a few messages, actually. I was actually catching strays from other tweets as well, randomly. But I was like, I generally like to try and keep it positive on Twitter, because Twitter, as we said a few weeks ago, it can be a cesspit. There's obviously lots of positive people out there. And I see Gary Farrell is on the live here. He's a very positive fella also on the Twitter. But I just said, God, Stephen Bennett's playing really well today. And next thing is like, you're always writing us off. You don't like us at all. And I'm like, is it just a case that lads are waiting to hop off yet? Or is it a case that it doesn't matter what you're going to say? And the other side is, we don't deliberately go fishing, except at Skehill the odd time. We'll have a few little pinties. And he might fish. He might do a little bit of fishing.
But I might drop in a hook every now and then, yeah.
But I think, to be honest as well, what you'll probably see a bit of today is that, like, I have a few lads who I work with, a few friends from Waterford, and, Snapchats and stuff, lads were heading to matches there today, and they were just kind of asking, what do you think, and all this sort of stuff. And the impression I was getting off them today was kind of in hope of good performance. They were travelling in hope, going, well, they didn't really know what Waterford were going to produce today. And I think a lot of people, I definitely know a lot of Waterford people came away hugely heartened with the performance, even if they won handsomely today. But even if they didn't win, the performance was really good. Like, you could get on board with it. And it's probably something they just haven't seen consistently over the last 2 to 3 years. But you could see it, like the last few times Tyg de Burka was coming out with a ball, and you could see the crowd rising in Welsh Park. And, there was just this hum of excitement. And then you had what looked like John Milan running around the field there as a supporter.
I thought it was, genuinely.
That was John Milan.
That's a fair play to him.
Fair play. And do you know what? It came at just a good time. No, it wasn't him. No. It came at just a good time where the mayors or whoever didn't have to tackle him because the game was over.
I let him off, yeah.
But,
and incredibly, all credit to the RTE producer, they cut directly to the pitch invader, when in every other sport that we watch on TV, they cut away to not show them. No, we got to see it all.
That's because he had his clothes on.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. Maybe they also thought it was John Milan.
That's true. Yeah, maybe they thought he was going in for an interview with Desi Hutchinson or something after the game. But no, it was a great win. But yeah, you're still picking up a few strays there on Twitter as a result.
I don't know why though.
Go on.
Like, specifically about Waterford, like, the numbers guy, he's like to call me Will, right?
Yeah.
So just a crunch number for you here, right? Like, and I didn't know this until today, so I just did it really fast. So Joanne said after the today's performance, that was Waterford's 4th win in the whole round robin. The context, that's 3 wins, obviously, out of 24 games. 12.5% win ratio. So when someone says to us, you're always writing off Waterford, yeah, you've won 3 games out of 24. So signs are on that you're getting better all the time. So, but it's a good day for Waterford. We got the direction today.
So did I. Yeah, no, I thought they were really good. I just want to make one other point just about the media coverage and lack of media coverage last week, because there were a few Waterford fans saying, well, nobody talked about it and everyone was just expecting Clare to go down and win and whatever else. Partly the reason why there wasn't a huge amount of talk about Waterford last week was because they didn't play. And partly the reason there wasn't a huge amount of talk in the previews ahead of, say, the championship getting underway was that most people, I would say, in the national media saw them twice this year. The last round when they played against Offaly, which was on TG Car, and the league final. I appreciate that Waterford were probably at their best in those 2 games, of the games that they played in 1B, but people didn't get to see the Carlow game. They didn't get to see when some of the players were coming back early on in the league. So therefore, because they were in 1B, they were a little bit under the radar in a general sense as well. And I think because they weren't playing weekend 1, I think it's understandable that people go, oh God, who are the 3 that are going to get out? And I think, based on what Skehill has just said, perfectly understandable, Murph, that with the way things have gone, people would have expected that the top 3 was going to be a fight between the teams that we were all hyping up for the top 3.
Yeah, exactly. And you can only work off what you've seen. And the last, few years, look, under Davy, they were playing a different style. But the last time we would have seen, we would have seen Waterford.
Is that what you call it, Murph, is it?
I'm going to get into it. Yeah.
No, is that what you call it? Different style?
Well, when you have Jesse Hutchinson playing essentially midfield and the goalkeeper from today, Billy Nolan, playing midfield, centre forward direction, and not really much to grasp within the performance. And then in 1B this year, it's hard to take a huge amount for 1B because, again, we haven't seen them. We saw 2 games. And then in the Offaly match, they went flying ahead against Offaly, but then Offaly closed them in. You're kind of wondering, is that kind of taking your foot off the gas in the final because, you're ahead by a nice margin? There's a bit of both, I think, in it, where Offaly did rally back and so on. But next year, I believe we'll be sitting here and Clare and Wexford will find it very hard to go, well, where are they at? First of all, they have to get out of 1B. But regardless of how they do it, we won't learn a huge amount about them if they come out of 1B or being competitive in 1B, because it's just hard to judge. And will they get the coverage as well? So there's a few strands there. But particularly for me, if you go back the last few years with Waterford, again, when we were seeing strange things like that of your marquee goal scoring forward being out around midfield, there's nothing tangible we can take from last year really to carry into this year. Understand as well also we have Peter Quealy at the helm. There's a new system in place, etc. But we just see more structure and they're far more clinical. They're far more organised. They look like they knew what they were about today. And that was something last year that we were getting quite frustrated with seeing Waterford. We didn't know what their MO really was. What way are they going at teams here? And unfortunately for them at times, it was times where they dropped back maybe, let's say, by 6 or 7 points in a game. And then suddenly they went back square 15 on 15 and actually hurled really well. And that in itself was also frustrating because we were going, well, when they hurl quite standard shape, they're really good and it really benefits them. So today, we learned a huge amount about them. We learned that obviously now every team going forward in Munster is going to Welsh Park is going to be extremely tough. But either way, whether we have Waterford at home or away, they're playing a really good brand, really, really exciting, really tough brand of hurling. Their tackling was excellent and you can go through everything else. But at the same time, I think Waterford will look today, Peter Quealy looked today. There was times there where we had wind in the first half and we had 3 or 4 wides, 3, 4, 5 wides. It's tough when you have the wind at times as well because sometimes you get a little bit too excited and you start going for shots that maybe aren't on. You're also going for the 100-yard shots. Billy Nolan took 1 or 2. He did score a great point in the first half. There was a few frees went astray. And sometimes having the breeze can do that to you. But Waterford were outstanding against the breeze. And it was very strong, but they were outstanding. And it took a bit more grit and determination to keep your game plan. They lumped the ball down a few times. But then they shored it up a small bit, they reassessed, and they started trying to get the ball in a little bit wiser into their forwards. Kylie coming on as well was great. Very physical player as well. So look, I think there's lots of great things for Waterford to take away from today. And again, it just throws another cat among the pigeons with Munster at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I very much welcome, as we threw up on screen there, some of the regional food delicacies there, such as the Blah, when Waterford are coming back. And I did like the Gary Farrell up in Antrim today has bought lots of Nordy Tato, which isn't entirely inferior, by the way, Gary, to Republic of Ireland Tato.
Is there a difference, Nordy Tato, is there?
Nah, it is, yeah. I think
is it still Tato, or is it just
Tato? But I think our beloved Tato is much nicer.
Don't get me started now on my favourite crisps. we could be here for 20 minutes.
Well, that might be
There's
one
far
for
bigger
the-
things to get.
I was going to say that might be one for slightly later on in the pod. Also coming in from Shane Power, who was talking about the beauty of the blah. Have to briefly talk about how Bennett is performing so well. Basically, 2 plastic hips to go through the pain and stress and agony to stay going is incredible. Yeah, so I suppose many people probably read about this or maybe heard the clip about Stephen Bennett talking about this. He was on Wooly's podcast a few weeks ago talking about it. It is very impressive, Skehill, for him to be able to do this when they talk about the amount of pain. I was chatting to Richie Hogan about this off air a few weeks ago. You know, Richie had to do a lot of rolling and everything just to get out onto the pitch. To me, it sounds like Bennett is in continual agony, but yet he wants to keep pushing his county forward, which when you take the type of performance he put in and the way he was moving today, it's so impressive.
Like it's both hips, as far I'm led to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not just one, it's both, let's say. So in terms of, one side subsiding, it's not. It's continuous pain. And like the hips on the joint, I can't imagine the pain he goes through just to even get on the pitch. Like Grant, he had a great performance today, and I actually really liked his interview. I thought it was very honest, very authentic. He was very kind of team-based. You know what I mean? There was no real talk about him. Honest improvement. He didn't mention his injury. He just said, "Yeah, it is what it is. We'll recover tomorrow and get on with it." Basically, so I think it's a measure of the man, and it's easy for us as the public to look at him and say, "Oh yeah, sure, he's just bearing an injury." But can you imagine going through that just in your normal day-to-day life? For tomorrow, for him going to work, I don't know what he does. I say, for him to get up tomorrow morning, the pain he's going to go through just to get through the day to go to work and get ready then for the next round. It's it's admirable. I have to say, like an amateur player, it's admirable because he's not getting paid, obviously. And he's putting himself through that pain barrier, which is like a sickness in itself. Why GAA players? Why we do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the word I want to touch on was the pride of it. Let's say he sounded very proud, and like pride can often be associated with the energy and the effort a team puts into performance. And so when you were talking more there about the forward, there's loads of work on the course of Waterford, but I just couldn't get over their forward unit today. How they absolutely, just dominated the Clare backs in terms of work rate. You know what I mean? So. Like they made it so hard for Clare to get quality ball or even run out of their defence. Like John Conlon, I don't know how many times, I'd love to go back and watch it again, how many times John Conlon was hit. In multiple directions. He'd get hit one direction, he'd turn, hit again, and like it was just relentless. And like that's kind of, and that was typified by the forwards. Like, well, obviously we associate that with backs, but like Bennett, was it 2-8 as he got? 1-4 from today.
Yeah.
Jimmy Barron 4 points. Jack Prendergast, I know he's down the list in terms of the marquee forwards for Waterford. I love what he does though. I love what he does. I love what Lyons does. You know what I mean? Like just real good, honest, and a proud performance. Like so kudos to Waterford.
Yeah, a very fair point made by Richard Hogan there. Because of the amount of players who were missing early in the year, maybe Waterford 1B was ideal because they could win some games, find their way into the season. It could have been far more difficult in Division 1A. Look at what we have here. Hold on a second. This is Skehill's chance to respond. Skehill is sick as a dog that Waterford have handed Clare a nice reality check to ruin the Big 3 plan. So we're all ripping up our top 3 predictions. I don't give anyone here in this chat is sure of who's going to win.
Why are you aiming at me, lad? I see my sheet here, Waterford and Clare. Will, James and Paul all pick Clare. So you may edit that tweet and send it back in again, bud.
What did you actually pick?
For this one?
We all pick Clare.
We did, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant I thought you were saying you picked your 3. We all picked Clare. But the other side about it, if we're getting into top 3s, picking. Oh yeah, actually, I think you got away with it. But even picking our 3s, I wouldn't even change mine at the moment because what's the point? Like, like at the moment, I picked Clare, Limerick, and Cork. But if you, regardless what 3 you picked, would you change any of them at the moment? No, because there's like it's all over the place at the moment. So I still wouldn't change it.
Murph, it's so bad. I don't even know who I picked. I don't even know. Like I know I picked Limerick and Cork. I'm not sure that I picked Clare or Tipp. I don't know.
I think we've done a few of them at this stage, so I can't remember which one is which. I also can't remember us being that strongly against Waterford. I don't think picking Clare to win after Clare's second half performance last week, and particularly not knowing when we made the predictions that Tony Kelly wasn't going to be available as well. Like, I mean, TK was a big loss there today, Skehill, as well. And again, this is not to take away from Waterford before anyone claims that we're focusing on Clare, but it's huge. If you're already down Shane O'Donnell, to then lose your talismanic forward who got some wonder scores last week, that was a huge blow before throwing.
Well, I suppose I know everyone will point towards Tony Kelly, of course, like he's the marquee player, but you also have to understand missing Conor Cleary and Jim Ryan too. Two very important players in their defence. So like I would equate that now to losing Prunty, which is a big huge loss. And I won't say losing Tyke de Burke, but like losing Bennett. So that's what you're on about. And I often say, I've said it multiple times, fastest way to improvement is recruitment. So if you flip the coin there by losing TK, like you've lost your one of the best players in the country and the influence he has, especially in tight games. So Walsh Park to me, like, it plays tight. Would you agree with me there, Murphy? It plays tight. You know what I mean? So it's not like a Páirc Uí Chaoimh that plays long, plays wide. So Walsh Park plays tight. So in the, let's say, the second half, particularly when Clare had the breeze, Clare were kind of lacking that long range shooter. You know, that person who can come at pace. Like Taylor did excellent in fairness from, but that long range shooter, David Fitzgerald wasn't on it today from a long range shoot perspective. Duggan had to come out. So Tony Kelly would open himself up into those pockets and he'd be shooting from 70 yards, 80 yards and popping them over. So we can't underestimate his loss. Obviously, he didn't you play what's in front of you. Waterford play what's in front of you. So whether he's available or not, it's not their problem. You know what I mean? And they took care of business. But when you're talking about the gravity of his loss, I don't think he'd be measured. It's huge.
Yeah, is that Fiol who's asking what happened to TK? So the conversation before the game, about half an hour out, was that he felt ill this morning, and that's why he was dropped out of the panel. So it's not an injury; it was sickness. Was the reason that he wasn't able to play. So I'd say he was fairly sick if he wasn't playing in a championship game. So look, it was an unfortunate one for them. Look, again, this brings Waterford back into it. Like Skehill, do you have a dislike of Waterford? Because a few people have claimed this, that you don't like them. So let's give you a chance to address that. I'll get into the dive then after that.
I suppose what I've stated here before is I love watching really good teams execute, right? You know what I mean? Like I've often said, I loved watching the Patriots in their heyday. I still do. I loved Barcelona. You know, I love watching Limerick, even though my own country was on the back end of beatings for them. But like, just Waterford haven't been in the mix. That's all. It's not me throwing shade at Waterford. You know, calling this, that, and the other. Like, I like Waterford. I like the way, the passion for the crowd. I like their players. On their day, they can beat anyone, but just they haven't been doing it. That's all it is. So, like, as I said to you, the stat we had: 24 games, 3 wins. Now it's four wins in 25 games. So, like, if they continue to back it up, we'll talk about them more. We'll touch on them more. Just mean in a more positive light. But it's very hard to be very positive about a team that's losing. You know what I mean? And I mean that respectfully. You know, and like Murphy, you said a different style of play with Fitzy last year, Waterford. I just couldn't see a style of play. I just saw pandemonium. That was all. You know, I just saw no strategy, and I got the overwhelming sense of frustration from the players, from the crowd, everyone. And it was a bad vibe, put it that way, in Waterford, and that fed into the media. So that's why we're talking about it, because we didn't agree with it. Well, I personally didn't agree with a lot of the things that was going on. You were basically, you know, limiting your best players, put them in positions that you wouldn't dare do nowadays. You know what I mean? So it's not that I don't dislike Waterford. I just didn't agree with the way they were set up last year, the way they were going. You know, and then there was not a lot of positive light being shone on them. That's all.
But I think as well, actually, as Desi Hutchinson, was he on with Woolley, I think, at some stage started this year, and I think he was basically just saying that he himself was a little bit confused with some of the things that came out from Davy last year in the media, etc. So, like, at the time, that can't be voiced. We voiced it at the time, kind of saying we were a little bit confused, but we even heard Desi Hutchinson coming out then. I think it was launched for AIB or the club championship or something to that effect, and he just mentioned that, like, you know, he didn't understand where the downplay in Waterford was coming from within the camp last year, and then also a few of the things that they were doing. So if you actually look at it, like, a lot of it was echoed by the Waterford players themselves. So it's, it's justified that way.
I spoke to Desi tail end of the year. I think it was an AIB piece. And again, he said very similar. I just asked him, look, did you feel more comfortable when the game plan changed around a bit last year? And remember, they could have beaten Clare towards the end of the championship. That was a 1-point game last year. And he said, closer to goal, I'm much happier. I prefer playing closer to there. And he said that they had actively changed their tactics around a bit. And even a few people like Dan Shanahan, I said, it's gone as part of the management team. He wanted to kind of bring the panel back together. I think it's very clear that they have got a more familial thing around the panel now. And Peter Queally is definitely allowing them to express themselves a bit more than they did last year. And look, the results are clear to see. I saw a very a bullish prediction there from William Phelan. If Waterford lose to Limerick, I'd still fancy our chances of beating Cork. We have a great record against them going back to the All-Ireland semi-final in 2017. So
okay.
Look, I think if you've won a championship game today and you've beaten the All-Ireland champions, why not feel that you can drive it on from here?
Do you believe records count for anything in sport?
No, there's not that many of the personnel still around from 2017, is there?
Very, very few. Is there what, 3 or 4?
The definitely Barron, he scored a goal in that semi-final. I was at it.
Taig Dworka.
Aussie's on the bench. Stephen Bennett would have been there, of course.
Yeah, Prunty was a sub. That was his first year, wasn't it? 17? I think, yeah. Is that really it? Lyons wasn't there, was he?
Not sure.
But point being, let's say that there's not a major, I suppose, correlation between those two teams. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not sure about records.
Yeah, no, that's very, very fair.
Yeah.
We've been asked by a million people. I'm not sure if I want to actually pull up a specific comment that's come in, but about the dive, which was from Adam Hogan. This is called out, I think, very strongly by Donal O'Cusick on the TV coverage as well. He said it was bullshit, and that the only person that was concerned about Adam Hogan's safety at that point may well have been just his own mother in his own house, given the way that he went down. So Desi Hutchinson he went in, Skehill, he really did.
I missed that. Screaming children. I missed that, but so just repeat that what he said one more time. So
the only person who'd be concerned about Adam Hogan's safety would have been his mother back in his own home.
Jesus. Okay.
And he called it bullshit as well. He said it is something it's very like something you'd say. I was surprised it happened on the telly. But this is something, Murph, that's been creeping in. We've talked about dives a little bit during the year and simulation to get other players booked or potentially sent off. The reality is that Desi Hutchinson is chasing him down. There's no level of contact that needs to result in a card there.
No, there's not. No, and like straight away as soon as I saw it, like the natural reaction was to throw the hands up in the air first instead of if you got a slap in the elbow, you're tucking it in straight away. So straight away, I was just going, look, it is, and like I completely understand. I saw Stephen Bennett's frustration after it. He was remonstrating with the referee Chris Moody, and I saw then Desi Hutchinson was. It's so frustrating for players, but the thing is about it, I think it'll eventually go against Adam Hogan because, like, the referees see this as well. The referees will discuss this, and I think it eventually will just come back around. Like, so for the small frees that you're going to win, potentially you might get under lad's skin. Like the cat is out of the bag now. People will know about it. People will be prepared for it. And if anything, I think referees will start getting wise to it. And the day you do get a slap, it'll be the boy who cried wolf. You know, it'll be a case of, well, sure, how do I know? Because if in retrospect, and I don't blame the referee in any ways, it's a hard one to call to start. The linesman say, yeah, he swung. Again, they have one look at it, but it was a dive when we go back and have a look at it. So I think
do you think he can do reputational damage to him?
Well, like, I mean, but he has the reputation now. So, I mean, it's a case of that. It's a double-edged sword. Like last week, we were talking about Shane Barrett, albeit Shane Barrett didn't strike him to get sent off. It was David Reedy, but like it was kind of held in the same conversation of like antagonizing other players. And then people were kind of a bit surprised then when he got booked at the same time Connolly hit him the dig. And likewise, we spoke about it last week where I would have said, well, the umpires, when they communicated to the referee, would have said both of them are at it. Connolly hit him a dig, whatever he did, but that Adam Hogan is going at them. So the reputation will be there. And the thing is that referees will be trying to be wise to is that referees genuinely don't want to make bad decisions. They don't want to make decisions that are going to ruin the game. They don't. And they'll be trying to learn lessons from all these things. And like, if they look at the player and they see, for example, if they go, David Fitzgerald is after hitting the deck, they'll go, geez, he's a big man. He doesn't go down. His reputation is that he's fine. But there'll be a question mark over Adam Hogan. And like, it's not doing him any favors that way, do you know? Because there may be a day where he'll get a bit of a rap and he mightn't get the break of it because it mightn't look that great, and the referee is between two minds as to did anything actually happen there.
And like he happens to get entangled a good bit, doesn't he? Even when the ball is not in play. I noticed this weekend as well. Maybe I don't know, is it a team or it's just coincidental, but twice yesterday in the Dublin Wexford game, 3 times the Cork game, and twice today in the Clare game, whereby the referee was blown for frees that were 90 yards away from because the cornerbacks were holding on to the corner forwards. So like I think you know, in terms of reputation, yes, the dive is now stuck to him, but he's also getting reputation for continuous fouling off the ball.
Yeah.
So like it's like you're dead right. Referees talk. Referees are human. You know, some referees could be listening to this. You never know.
There was a free in given against him in the first, I'd say, 5 or 10 minutes not against Patrick Kern, for fouling Patrick Kern off the ball. So the ball was down the other end of the field. I don't know, it's Billy Nolan pucking it out, and it was a free in. So like you can see that, like you said there, actually very well there, that between Cork and Tipperary, Johnny Murphy was looking up the field. They're looking for these distant ones because they know that lads are at it. So once you flag yourself there, that's like and consistently in every game that this is an MO of you. Well then that's basically a case that referees are going to say, I now have to be smarter when I'm reffing player X or player Y because they're either going to play for it or they're antagonizing other players. And that's
the thing about Adam Hogan is I rate him extremely high. It's obvious. You know, we have great time for him in terms of as being a player. He doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to be driving. He doesn't need to be at that. Let's say, I know he sometimes classes himself as a bit of a showman the way he just go on sometimes, okay? Yeah. Like, are you not entertained with some of the stuff he does? But it's needless from his perspective because he's got all the skills and all the attributes to be a great cornerback. Just keep on rocking, you know? Yeah. So I just think I'd say this is going to be a lesson from him. I do believe that it'll get back to him, like, you know what I mean, publicly over the course of the next week or two. And I probably, and look, if he takes action, great for himself. If he doesn't, He's in for more trouble.
We'll be back calling him out again.
Yeah.
Right, so Darragh Flynn has rung the klaxon, which is the who's getting out of Munster now klaxon. But he has phrased it slightly differently. Surely a full-strength Waterford team are now in pole position ahead of Clare to get out of Munster. Could see them getting another win. Not so sure if Clare can get over 3 points. Clare obviously have 1 point at the moment. So let's put it to our esteemed panel here. Skehill, you can have first shout on this.
Damn it, I was
Are
hoping
Waterford now better placed to qualify than Clare?
Like Clare full strength are a very, very dangerous animal. So there's a dependency on clientele. So like, will they have Cleary and Ryan and Kelly back for the next game? That's the big question. If they have those 3 boys back, there's every chance that they can beat Tipperary and that they can beat Limerick. Of course, there's. You know what I mean? That could finish them on 5 points. In the same breath, even with those lads, they're facing 2 formidable teams. I think Tipperary stock. I know that the margin of victory today for Cork was large, but I still believe Tipperary stock went up. You might agree with me there. Ooh. So in terms of momentum, in terms of positivity around the camp, I still believe it's high because they fought hard for 65 minutes. In saying that, right? Waterford full strength and Clare full strength. I'm tipping the scales towards Clare. Now, the running of games now is a bit trickier. You know what I mean? So it's like Waterford's position right now has a more positive feel about it. Would you agree with me? It just feels more positive at the moment. Okay,
they've just won a game, so naturally that colours our opinion.
Of course, yeah. So Clare have to go and take points off Limerick and take points off Tipp. That's not going to be easy. We know that. And look, Waterford have to go and do the same thing. Of course they do. But if you win a head-to-head battle against a county like Clare, so Waterford obviously in the ascendancy. But then there's a dependency on Waterford to go and get something from Cork. And as we saw today in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, that is not simple. No. So the landscape could be totally different, lads, in a fortnight.
Of course it could. I mean, obviously, the Waterford-Limerick game is probably going to decide an awful lot about where we think things are going to go from here. Murph, you can take up that question, which is the who is qualifying. Are Waterford better place now to qualify than Clare? I still think last week, by the way, we said in last week's pod, the draws in a way suited Waterford because no team pulled away on weekend 1 because there were 2 draws. You come out and you win, and now Waterford's path seems really clear from here.
Yeah. And just to, I suppose, to tie in the whole Clare-Waterford thing, I think Clare have more ability to absorb a few injuries than Waterford. They have a bit more of a panel there. I don't think Waterford are in position to do it. They'll need pretty much every, like if Stephen Bennett, like we're talking about Stephen Bennett from the top of the show with the hip injuries. If Stephen Bennett isn't involved in one of those games, automatically a talisman there is, he's gone. Whereas Tony Kelly was absent today. Yes, he's a loss. But you weren't looking at it as big a loss. You're still going, like, Shane Meehan came in and scored 4 points from play. Like, he came in and he had a really good contribution. I think from frees, Clare will be kicking themselves today. When they could have kept themselves in the game, they were hitting. It was a tough wind. Ed McCarthy hit a few frees wide, fine. But in terms of momentum, I'd agree with Skehill that it's more positive at the moment for Waterford. I think Waterford have a lot more hunger in the camp as well. I mean, look, call a spade a spade. Clare have won the All-Ireland. In a way, the winning makes you weaker, because you've now reached the summit. There's a bullseye on your back. People want to beat you, etc. Waterford, having not been in the mix in the last few years, they don't have that baggage going into games where teams are going out going, these lads have been up in our face. Do you remember what they did to us last year, etc., etc., etc. And they themselves are extremely hungry because they haven't had that success over the last few years. So I think when we do see that in games, so there's the two angles I'd be looking at. I'd be saying if Waterford pick up injuries, it, unfortunately, I think could cost them because they can't afford them. Where Clare can afford that. But at the moment, the positivity and the momentum would still be with Waterford. But I was saying, if someone was asking me now, would you take Clare out of it? No, I can't. It's still only the second game. And if I was to go back and if Waterford fans were to look at this from their angle, I'll bring you back to 2022 when they had 2 wins from 2 in the first 2 games. Cork came to town in Walsh Park, and you're expecting this is Waterford going into a Munster final. They lose. They don't win another game after that, and they don't get out of Munster. So we're at round 2 now. So again, it's one match. We never judge anything in one match. We never go, this team's going to win the All-Ireland, this team's going to be terrible, etc. All that. And the one thing I also go back to with Clare, and you have to say, Clare are a great team with necessity on the table. When they need to win something, they're very good at going, well, whatever we have to do to get out here and get over the line, they're able to do it. Yeah. So I would still find it very hard to turn around and say, well, no, Clare can't get out of Munster or whatever. Momentum's with Waterford, but there's a long road ahead for Waterford at the same time. So it's very hard. I always come back to that. You can't just turn around after one game and say, well, this is nearly decided now. It's not. There's a long way to go yet.
I agree with the folks who were sticking up there about Crack of the Ashes. Their Clare versus Tipp is now tasty. It really is. It's going to determine so much about what's going to happen within the Munster Championship itself. And also thanks to Mairead, who I spotted a bit further up, who said that Darragh Lyons played midfield in the All-Ireland final in 17. So some good fact checking. I knew the listeners and viewers would fact check us as we go along, so it's fine. You know, they're the extra.
Who needs Google? Who needs Google? And you have listeners with great memory.
Yeah, Stephen Bennett as well, by the way. That was his 100th appearance for Waterford today. So that was one hell of a way to mark it with the 2-8. He's absolutely flying. He really is.
Is it 60? Is it Saturday is the next game, lads? Third, isn't it?
Saturday evening, isn't it, I think?
So 6-day turnaround. Is he how is he going to manage that?
It'll be a tough one, yeah.
Sorry, I just can't get over it.
I'd say he'll be in an ice bath between now and then, probably. Ice bath and yoga between now and then.
And
but
injections.
It's tough. It's tough. It's just to try and turn around and enter into a very physical match. But look, you can only have admiration for him. Like even today, to put in 2-8, regardless, and call it fresh if you want to call it fresh. But he goes onto the field fresh there and scores 2-8. He was just outstanding. And the thing about him is that if you look at him, he's not lightning fast. That's not to take anything away from him. He's not lightning fast, but his movement is great. Because he has kind of ghost around, he constantly stays moving and then he drifts. Lads aren't looking at him. He drifts. His touch is excellent. There was once or twice today where the ball was coming to him. I remember one in particular in the second half. He was down near his own 65, I think between 65 and 45. Ball comes out from the back. He controls it and lets the Clare man pass through him and goes. And it's just this, he's so reliant on the first touch being right and all these things and the striking being excellent that if a lad is a yard off him, he's outstanding. He's outstanding. Yeah. So, six-day turnaround is very tough for him.
Yeah. It is. That was a landmark for Stephen Bennett. It wasn't the landmark I think Noel McGrath would have wanted today to be, but still incredibly impressive. 74 championship appearances now for Tipperary. So he's gone ahead of Brendan Cummins as their biggest appearance maker. He's played more games for Tipperary in the championship against Cork than any other player as well. He came on in a difficult situation, but I'm intrigued by your take on this, Gail, because you said a few minutes ago that in a way their stock has maybe even improved because of the way that they battled today. And
I know some might laugh at that and go, what are you on about? They got bit by X amount of points. But
15.
15 is fine. I know, and even the spread was 17 at half time. I looked at it thinking, I'll back that, but I didn't. But I'm a big reader of body language, particularly when you feel like games are got away from you. You can tell an awful lot of people. I read a great article before about Brian Cody in the 2001 semi-final, Kilkenny and Galway, and he said he learned an awful lot about his players because the body language that they showed, even though things were going really against them, and so I'm watching the Clare, I'm watching the Tipperary forward line in particular, and I'm watching players like Connolly, Kennedy, Noel McGrath, even Ronan Maher, etc., Brian O'Mara. Still they're 9 points down. Don't get me wrong, it's 9 points down, but they're driving forward, right? They win a freeze, then they're pumped for body language. And I'm saying that shows a very, very positive outlook on a team. What you don't want is continuous remonstrations with referees, giving out to each other, giving up on tackles, giving up on scores. And like Cork, they're hard enough to play with 15. So when you go to 14 from the very beginning of the game, like a result like this for most teams, I believe, I would say nearly all teams across the country would be ominous. It would happen, I think, especially Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And that's me saying, as I said before, there are 5 points ahead of you in Cork and Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Then give them a man extra. It becomes a very difficult operation. So I just thought like Tipperary had loads of chances. They did. They had a couple of goal chances. I just think if the two boys, I think it was Craig Morgan and Sam Farrell, if they travel a bit further, who knows what way the game would have gone. But I think the result wouldn't change. But I just liked what I saw. And people say they conceded 4, whatever. I get that, okay, against a very, very potent forward line. But just the little nuggets, and even the tone or even the body language of Liam Cahill in his interview. Did you see that? I thought it was decent.
No, I didn't actually see the interviews afterwards.
The interview was quite late, so they kind of went back and forth a bit, and then they show his interview late. But he didn't come across as a guy who was seething. Yes, of course, he was disappointed, but I got the feeling like that he was okay with it. Do you know what I mean? When I say okay with it, that he saw some things that he's happy with, basically. And not that this is all doom and gloom and they have to press the full reset button because of the level of beating. But I'm just thinking, for me, looking as a neutral looking in, I'm thinking there's some good ingredients there to make a good run of the championship.
I never thought I'd see the day where James Skehill was talking about his respect for Tipperary.
No, step back now, my friend. Okay, I never said I didn't respect Tipperary. I just said I didn't like them.
You said you hated them.
Yeah, but okay. Let me
it was a respectful hating, in fairness.
Yeah, it was from a sporting perspective. Jeez, my best friend is from Tipperary. I said, it was from a sporting perspective. Yeah, of course, I still hate them. You know what I mean? But I hate Kilkenny too. So it's like I hate all of them. There's always beating us.
Right, let's get you off that before this goes any further. Murph, you can take the red card. I saw people saying, look, this ruined the game. Everyone's very excited about Cork against Tipperary. The angle that I've seen of it is people zooming in on an angle of an angle, because understandably the ball had gone up the other end, and you get this. I guess it's a coming together, effectively, between Darren McCarthy, who gets the red card, and Sean O'Donoghue. From what I've saw, from my totally unbiased point of view, it looks like McCarthy goes to leave a mark on him, and he gets a red card. Maybe this is a lesson that a youngster learns, to not do that and to get caught, obviously, I would presume, by one of the umpires or the line officials who spotted it. And his team have paid a big price by going down to 14 men, which means Patrick Horgan can walk around as a spare man for the rest of the afternoon. What was your take on the red card? And I do appreciate, even on the Sunday game footage, it's zoomed in from a very, very high and wide angle here.
Yeah, no, look, for me it was red card, and to be honest, I was listening to Liam Sheedy even say it, like he had no gripes with it either at half time. Like when you look at it in context, even if you look at it isolated, it looks like a red card anyway. In that last week we spoke with Shane Barrett, whether he injured him that much or not, he raised a hand and he made a referee make a decision. There seemed to be a bit more in this one even for Darren McCarthy. And the big thing about it, the first thing I say is that I think everybody acknowledges that Darren McCarthy's a young man, he's learning. Nobody wants to jump on the back of him at all. And I think, not that we jump on the back of experienced players at all, but, you know, I think the first thing that everyone acknowledged was that this was a big game. He was revved up and he went in, he made a mistake that, you know, unfortunately players will learn at some stage during their career, that you just have to keep it cool. Blood was up. But when you saw there was an angle that showed, I think as the ball was thrown in or whatever, they were running into positions. And Darren McCarthy looks for trouble. He looks going shouldering, lads. Like, so he goes for a shoulder and he goes and he meets Donoghue, and then he swings the hurl. Now, after that, yeah, he does. He makes a bit of a swing. It looked to me.
I wasn't sure whether it was his body or the hurl, but
do you reckon he gave him the butt?
Well, do you know what? I'll leave it open to say again there, Skehill.
Do you reckon he gave him the butt?
It looked to me, now again, I'm 100% open to correction, but it looked to me that there was a bit of the butt of the hurl involved, but it didn't look like it was nasty. It didn't look like that it was just a bit of heavy jostling, but the butt of the hurl was involved.
Yeah.
And it looked like that there was enough there that I wouldn't be jumping on a linesman or an umpire saying it looked like a strike. I don't know who again. We go back to talking about players go down. He's not a man who goes down. He's a hardy lad. He stays up. He doesn't, get involved in these things. And I just think it's a mistake. I just think that's all it is. Darren McCarthy made a mistake. He learned from it, and he was revved up going in, and it's a red for me. Unless another angle turns up, like in the next 24 hours, someone may come along with the stats video and you turn out actually something didn't happen. But for me,
no, you're actually Murphy. You're kind of right. Yeah. So he goes for him, right? I'm looking on the phone as we speak now. He goes for him, hits him with, and then it's like he used his whole body, elbow, and the hurl as well in the one movement.
Yeah, it just looked
like it's like he gave him a butt in the men's region.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, it's a straight red card. I know I saw our friends on the Premier View saying, how can you tell if that's a red or is it even a red or whatever? But like,
I looked at it though.
There was no hesitation. And again, a couple of people have seen this pretty clearly.
And the other side is that, yeah, exactly. That's the one where you're saying if we're looking at it again on the Sunday game or whatever, look at where the linesman is. I presume it was the linesman who gave it. He's about, I'd say 25, 30 yards. He's in on the pitch. He didn't actually go to the sideline and he stands looking at it. So there's a man with a great angle. So for me, I don't think there's any gripes. We won't be talking about this on Monday or Tuesday morning. Do you know that some of these ones, they roll over and they say this or that? I'm thinking of Garrod Hegarty's one down in Ennis a few years ago there where I think it was the second yellow, it was a tap or something. I can't remember, but I remember there was controversy about these ones. This one won't be controversy. And to be honest, I'd be happy enough for this one to disappear quickly because I think I'd like to see Darren McCarthy now just going on and going, feck, that was a mistake. Right, well, let's just get on with it here now. We can qualify out of Munster. We can have a great year, etc. And just banish it because I think especially as a younger player, we have a responsibility to these younger lads. Yes, he's an adult, but at the same time, he's a great talent who's learning at the moment. He was fired up. You knew he wanted to hurl well, and he made a mistake. So let's just move it on. He got his red. It is a red. We'll move it on. And I'm not saying us. I'm saying, the GA community.
Yeah, for people who are asking about the potential suspension, if that's a striking offence, he is likely to get 2 games. I see people are asking about how long he could be out for. So that could be very expensive for Tipperary because even at his young age, he's been a very, very important player for them so far.
Does that mean that his championship is over unless they get to Munster final? Or else to qualify out of Munster, sorry.
So the ban,
2 games, yeah?
The ban will be at the same level. If there's any potential referees or official makers here who might be able to correct me on this. So he won't be serving them through the under-20s. It'll definitely be 2 senior games that he'd miss.
So there's 2 senior games left, obviously, in the group for Tipp. That means he's out of the group stages. So if they come
qualify,
third, he'll be heading into a prelim or a Munster final, so that he won't play again for Tipp to that point. Is that correct?
Well, unless he wins an appeal on it, yeah.
It's a long way away, isn't it, lads?
Yeah.
It's a month away.
Obviously, yeah. It is. Yeah, I mean, look, you pick these up in the group stages that can be very, very, very expensive indeed. Look, again, people are arguing this. I see a few people there saying, no, there's no strike there, didn't see it. This is the thing that happens before a game or early in a game. Lads are kind of hitting off each other early on. I see other people saying they definitely saw the hurl coming in. So argue away. Will McCarthy's ban include the under-20? I see Garrod Fitzgerald's been asking. As far as I remember, in the rule book itself, it's the same level that you get suspended in. Same competition, so it carries over to the next round of the Munster Championship or the All-Ireland Series if Tipperary were to advance from there. So, by the way, there's a load of questions that have come in that go totally off the beaten track. So why not go off the beaten track and get these out of the way for a second? Because I've seen someone put up there, I have to scroll back quite a bit, but it was, forget about the hurling, lads. All I want to know is what's happened to the cow. So I presume this is Podge the calf. We spoke about this in the members pod. There's obviously quite a few people here who won't have seen that. Where is Podge at this stage, Skehill, before we move off it?
Would you believe he's in County Clare? He was sold there maybe 3 weeks ago to County Clare. So he went to his rightful home. And no, he's not. I saw
on a dinner plate.
He's not on a dinner plate, lads. No, he's being used for mass reproduction. That's mass
great
reproduction. Yeah, great life.
Why has he proven to be quite the stud? It would seem. I know you had him as a. We were calling him a stripper at one stage, but go on.
No, wait.
We were wrong. We didn't realize what strip steak.
Yeah, I feel like I have to educate you sometimes at the farm, which is fine, absolutely fine. You educate me on stuff too. He's a pedigree bull, you see. So he's a Charlie pedigree, so he's heading off for reproduction into a suckler herd. So he's doing fine, he's doing well. And he ped well. So I'm happy enough.
The other off the beaten track comment that came in that I can throw at you, Skehill, someone else said, who cares about the hurling? Talk about what his favourite crisps are. That's what I really want to know about. So what? O'Donnell's, which one?
Oh, I love the salt vinegar ones. Oh, they're lovely. I mean, they're like, so I have to get 2 or 3 bags a week. Just have to get them.
Go away.
Oh, they're gorgeous. Yeah.
Anyways.
And I'm a fan of Kyo's too, let's be honest. I'm a fan of Kyo's.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a fan of Tato's.
Why not?
I just think they're subpar. They're below par.
You
know, like my top crisps, right? So O'Donnell's is up number 1, right? Kyo's is 2. Then I'm coming down to I love bacon fries too. Then I'm heading into the sour cream onion Pringles country. You know what I mean?
Would you ever have bacon fries outside a session though? I kind of assume both them and scampi fries only happen when you're in the pub.
Yeah, I wouldn't get bacon fries in a shop. I get them in a pub when I'm absolutely starving. Sorry, I was going to say something else. Chipsy. Yeah. I love actually hula hoops, the barbecue flavour as well. Sorry, I'm going way off here now.
It's incredibly specific. I do like this. Yeah, it's that one. Sean Frayne, why must you hurt me? Do you think that going down to 14 men is a bigger detriment for teams in the last few years? Every team now knows exactly how to work with an extra man. Losing a man is so significant now. Not last night for Galway, when they went down to 14 men, which we'll get into a bit more later on. But Offaly only scored 5 points against the Galway team who were hurling a man short after Dai Burke was sent off. And I think Galway had 9 or 10 wides across the second half as well. They put up a big score. They knew how to use it. In this case, I think they just withdrew on the forwards, happy enough to just pack the half forward line, and they just kept rocking. They kept their running game going. It didn't make a difference.
I was going to ask you a question. I'll throw it out to both of you. I have a different look on this now. So let's say, obviously McCarthy gets sent off. He's your forward, right? History across the whole time of hurling, it's you keep your structure the same, okay? But the way the game is now, do you believe that because Cork had it so easy to work the ball out at times, that it made their forwards more potent? So should Tipperary have had a different setup or structure to negate the Cork backs getting out quicker? I'm throwing that at you, Murph. So picture, so I'm picture a game plan, a setup, right? They just went orthodox 5-on-6, you know.
Yeah.
And they left the central channel free and try to cover off the full back line. But how many times do we see them coming down on particularly the 10? Again, it's that flipping 12-15 channel again. It's that side.
Yeah.
Where Collins loves that side. He loves to go to Coleman. He loves to go to the wing. Horgan, Hayes, all them coming out.
Yeah.
So the ball going in was very, very simple and very, you know, there was no stress basically on the Cork backs sometimes. Yeah. So what would you have done anything different?
I see. The thing I'd say about Cork is that, like, Cork are they're so good. They're probably the best team at the moment in terms of delivery of that ball in towards their half forward, full forward line. Like, they're just excellent at it. Those cross balls, or cross field balls, lads running in different directions. They're outstanding at it and picking lads out. And if their backs are coming out with their head up, which invariably they just seem to be able to do today. It was just the shooting fish in the barrel analogy. Like, they were so well able to pick it out. The other side I would say is that against Cork, was there something else Tipp could have done today? I don't think so. I think because Cork are, in my opinion at the moment, they're going so well that they're able to adapt. So like if that ball wasn't working out, I think we would have just seen, okay, Rob Downey, if he didn't go off, he's just kind of going a bit more rangy, coming up the field and popping from distance, Declan Dalton popping balls from distance and so on. I think Cork would have been able to adapt. But I think other teams who are still finding their feet mightn't adapt as quickly as Cork. Like, I'll put it this way, if Kilkenny went down, if Kilkenny were up a man at the moment, there's been the odd time where we've seen Kilkenny still lumping the long balls and graduating to that short ball game. So they mightn't have done it as well as Cork. But I just think where Cork are at the moment and that position they're in, like when they really put their foot in the gas from the start today. And the one thing I'd actually say about Cork is that Cork hurl better when they're 3 points up than they do when they're 10 points up. I know that's probably a normal thing to say or a very obvious thing that they take their foot off the gas when they're 10 points up. But they drop their intensity so much when they get to 10 points that, and it's remarkable that we're even saying it, that they get to 10 points ahead so often, but then take their foot off the gas. So even with, and I agree, you said it earlier, that Tipperary performed really well. They can actually take a good few things from the game. They can. But there's so many, like Jake Morris there, the one of the points he got where he was just dogging, went through. Eventually the ball popped from him again, he got a point. I think the turnovers and everything, a stat came up on RTE. I think the turnovers were very high in favour of Tipperary. I think there was possession very high in favour of Tipperary as well. And all that doesn't, for me, buy into the fact that Cork were savagely dominant, let's say, because they had the extra man. They were just really clinical when they had the ball. Like, they were very effective. Their conversion rate was really good.
Mark, you're right. You're right about possession. So it was 51-49 in favour of Tipp, and you're right about turnovers. Yeah. You're right about turnovers too. It was 31-21 in their favour.
Yeah.
So that's a big distance. That's a big gap.
It is.
31-21 is a big gap. Yeah.
It's huge. And so Cork when they had the ball, were just that bit more effective. That was really all it was. And so when you look at that, I think Pat Ryan will go, lads, like, if there's one element I would say about Cork at the moment that they need to work on, it's just that ruthless streak, because they could literally destroy teams at the moment, but they're not. 15 points is a big beating, but you have to put that down to being a man down also, and the attrition of Tipperary. But there's one element there for Cork. I just think that they just need to be that bit more cutthroat and just go and kill off a team, you know.
Yeah. I always love the O'Dwyer, Callan and McGrath username here on YouTube as well. Spotted pretty much every time we go through. The reason, someone said to me, Will, you must be on commission with the Premier Review pod I saw up earlier on, given the mentions and whatever. The only reason that it actually came up into my mind was that they were talking about us last week. Basically saying, oh, we've shut up these three now who don't give Tipperary a chance. So the great part is, right, we're not giving Tipperary a chance, while also not giving Waterford a chance, while also not giving Clare respect for what they achieved last year, while also, overhyping Cork and overhyping Limerick. So, we're actually doing everyone out at the moment. But yeah, I was sent a clip last week. It was one of the days, because I actually had to show it to your club mate, Murph. I showed it to Richie Hogan. I was like, because I said to him, the Tipperary pod we're talking about is there, and he was like, there's a dedicated Tipperary hurling podcast. I was like, oh no, they do a bit of football as well, but generally they try and kind of get a bit going, and clearly these comments were to try and provoke a reaction of some form. And I just saw earlier on that they had tweets up where they were saying, I'm not sure this was even a red card. I think the referees got it wrong. So there you go.
Not at all. But were they giving out about us last week because we said something?
Yeah, because we were writing off Tipperary.
I'd say that's everyone. I'd say we've wrote everyone off in Munster at this stage, have we?
Probably.
Everyone. Yeah. Everyone's written off. No one's winning Munster. There's no one coming out of Munster this year.
Yeah, Cork are out now. They're fucked.
Everyone done. Yeah.
Just to address Adrian Cormacan, because I think Adrian may well have tweeted me last night as well. The free count was definitely should have been higher in Galway's favour. I thought James Owens got sarcastically clapped by the crowd quite a few times during the match, and they weren't particularly happy. And I think the red card was like a red rag to a bull to Galway supporters at half time as well. And then second half, there was just a few times where Galway should definitely have got frees, and I thought he was very, very easy on Offaly with some of the fouling that they were doing. So there should have been a higher free count, and Galway should have won by more as well. You're not, even I, as an Offaly observer at the game last night, as much as I was working as opposed to being a fan, just different levels. Like, it was a really chesty night for Offaly. All over the place. Like, Offaly now have a lot of the problems that Offaly had, Skehill, going back to, say, the puck out issue that was in the league final, for anyone who watched it on the TV, was just exposed entirely. So Galway at the start, kind of first 5-6 minutes, Offaly got a goal from Killian Sampson early on. And then the 7th minute, they turned over a puck out, which was Mark Troy coming over to the left-hand side of the defence. I think it was poor Cantwell who got caught in possession.
Yeah.
Offaly ends up having to turn over a free. It gets popped over the bar. You're thinking, right, a minute later when the next puck out comes, don't do it again. Vary it. Go the other way. Go right. Go long. And because Galway were dominating the middle, and were dominating the kind of middle third particularly, Offaly decided to persist with the same style. And Galway let it out again to that side. They just put the press on. The ball eventually comes to Colin Mannion. He finishes the ball beautifully across to the other end. Like Mark Troy made some brilliant saves last night. He saved the penalty, which is an absolute cracker for anyone who's going to see it later on the Sunday game. His dive over to the side was incredible to stop that. And he made a couple of other really good saves during the game. But the puck out strategy is becoming a problem. And I don't think that's purely down to the goalkeeper. I think that has to be a collective thing, because as you would have said multiple times, Skehill, if you don't have the options and if they're not there, that's where the puck out is going wrong. It's not going to be. This wasn't down to execution. This was down to not having a variety to the plan. And while it worked a little bit against Waterford in that league final, where they would get the ball to a point and then horse it up towards Dignan, that doesn't work if Dahi Burke is standing back at 3.
But sure, Dahi, like when I saw the team and I saw Dahi at 3, I was personally delighted, because I said he will love that big high ball coming in, a bit like JJ and Tommy in their day. Just he'd love it in, because he's an animal in the air. Whatever it is about him, his technique, it doesn't matter what size he is. He's not the tallest man in the world, like nor was JJ or Tommy, but they just have the technique down to a T. And I believe, again, I couldn't see it anywhere, lads, but the first ball that went in, Dahi catch it. Will did he?
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
Yeah,
he was lording it until he got sent off.
Yeah. What was it sending off for? Because I've heard so many different reports.
So basically, we went over. So Micheál Donoghue kind of commented a little bit after the game. So he was asked about it, and he said, "Look, I have to go and review it." And he commented his own second yellow card, which saw him get sent off as well. So he said they need to review. But I was kind of briefly chatting to the guys from Galway Bay. We'd also been chatting to Franny Ford just to the side while I was doing some of the other interviews. And basically what Franny said was they were told just before they came back out for the second half that it was relayed to the team secretary that Dahi Burke was going to be sent off. It was a red card for a tackle on Brian Dignan just before half time. Now, some of the people over on the terrace, we were a long way away up in the press box because we were literally the other side where the incident happened. So we kind of thought like there was obviously a lot of consternation on both sides. Galway fans who weren't happy with the way that Dignan hit the ground, and Offaly supporters who weren't happy with the hit. The feeling was the moment had passed though, if the red card wasn't issued. So I kind of thought if James Owens was going to issue the red card, it would happen before the teams went in. I think most people thought, right, that moment has just moved on. And next thing, you see Galway coming back out. It's this really unusual situation. So Offaly are already on the field. Galway are coming out. And all the officials are basically standing at, if you're familiar with O'Connor Park, you know where the tunnel comes out into the middle of the pitch there? So the four guys were just standing there, almost like, it was the OK Corral was what Cyril Farrell called it. It was like guys getting ready for a gunfight. And then the red card was produced.
Can you give me some more context here, Will? The tackle that Dahi did on Brian Dignan, how close to half-time was that?
Oh, it was just before half-time. So
like the ball was still in play, like the game was still ongoing.
Yeah, the game was still ongoing, yeah. Which is why I'm surprised it wasn't a red straight away.
Owens blew the whistle for half time and then Dahi hits Dignan after, is it?
No. It was just before. The play kind of finished after that, which is again why I don't understand.
So the play passed.
Yeah.
So you can go back and give a retrospective ban early, retrospective red card. Has that ever happened before? I don't know.
It was really unusual. I kind of assumed. So I think it was your buddy Aidan Hart who picked up a yellow card just before the start of the second half because it was like he was remonstrating with the officials, and I kind of thought had something happened with Dahi Burke over coming out in the tunnel. Do you know what I mean? Or had something come out when the teams were going into the tunnel at half time or something? And that's why there was a bit of confusion about it.
Thought it was that, Will.
Yeah, and I can totally understand why they would have thought that.
Right. So do you think Galway have grounds for Peter?
I think they'll definitely be having a look at it, yeah. Because I talked to a few Galway supporters afterwards who were over the far side because they were on the terrace. They said that they felt that Dignan had gone down very easily. I can't comment on this because I haven't seen a TV replay of it yet. And that's not me trying to do an Arsene Wenger here. I'm genuinely saying we were 100 yards away on the other side. Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure. I saw the reaction more so than the hit.
But the appeal process too was probably a waste of time really because since what did it for me was the Kilkenny and Tipperary league game below Northern Park. All the red cards. If they didn't get appealed, I'm like, forget about it.
Yeah.
And the James Mahon one too, wasn't it? That one didn't get overturned, will it?
Yeah, no, I didn't get overturned, no.
So I don't think, would you bother?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it is the Wexford game. And I don't want to jump around. We will get back into Cork in a second because I see lots of Cork fans who are wondering about their form and so on. But it's an awkward situation to put him in. Because straight after the game, I had people saying, James Owens knows that Wexford are playing against Galway in the next round. It's a crucial game now because Wexford have lost to Dublin. Galway need to try and get to 2 wins from 2 after the break. And you have a referee from the county refereeing in a game that could have a direct impact on his own county the next day. I, by the way, don't think for a moment that James Owens handed out a dodgy red card here, just in case anyone thinks that's being inferred. But the point being more, it's a strange one where you've got a referee who's put into that situation, Skehill.
Well, I'm just trying to think now from who's our referee. Our referee is Liam
Liam Gordon.
Would you see him refereeing Kilkenny and Wexford if either team was playing Galway the week after?
Should they do provincial crisscrosses?
Yeah, they should, of course. Yeah, I think the spread of referee is wide enough that they can do that. Isn't that right?
Well, they do. Well, look, Chris Moody was doing the Waterford one today. He's Dublin, so he was. It does make sense if you go cross provincial. Like, I mean, to go to Tullamore today or yesterday, for any Munster or Tipperary referee, let's say, that's not a huge drive. You know,
because your man who did Dublin and Wexford is he's Kennedy, isn't Tipperary man? The guard, he's in the arm response unit. The big,
think you're right. Yeah.
He's a good ref. I like him.
Yeah. Liam White there, who was watching it there, said, to my knowledge, it happened as soon as the whistle went for half time. So it was literally just before half time. But again, I was surprised that it wasn't a case of it, and Liam is saying there as well, it happened right in front of us, that it wasn't called at the time. Again, it just seems weird that the teams went back into the dressing room. But the word out of the Galway camp was that they found out before they came back out for the second half. So it wasn't a case of Dahi Burke was walking out and wonders what's going on here, why are these four lads standing here. So they knew that. So they had a few minutes for it as well.
Well, can I just ask a question on the question side now? Of
course, yeah.
And similar to Jeremy McCarthy's red card today. So Johnny Murphy didn't see it. So I'm presuming because the game was being played, let's say James Owen let it off, is the sideline officials that came in and kind of pushed it towards the red card? Because I know the sideline official today is what... And not pushed
it was a linesman. I think it was a linesman who called the attention today, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I know the referees are getting I hate to use the word the blame, but they're getting, the spotlight for issuing the red card, but they're probably going off other people's information, surely. Linesman officials.
Yeah, but the linesmen are referees as well, though. So, like, we were talking that the referee maybe hadn't seen it, but the person on the sideline is our referee also. He's just the linesman that day. So they're as good as you're going to get in terms of a voice on the matter, Yeah. And I know, like, some people have gotten frustrated sometimes that, not to say we've been overly defensive of referees, but like people were saying today things such as, the referee ruined the game in Tipp and Cork because he didn't. He made a decision. Like it's not a player makes an act, a referee makes the decision. It's the player you look at to say, well, if you felt that this affected the game, it's the player, it's not the referee. So when people turn around to get it, now I understand completely though. Let's say the next one where you're talking Dublin Wexford and the ball. I'm going to overstep on Will's territory here of introducing the point. Do you have a good introduction for this next point, Will?
No, go on.
You know where I'm going? Well, just where it appeared that the ball didn't cross the line and people can get frustrated at that. That's understandable because you're going...
But who are we blaming for that part?
Surely that's an umpire, is it?
An umpire. It has to be an umpire.
Yeah.
It has got to be the umpire. And the ref, again, is going off the information.
Yeah, like I'd imagine, is it not a case where, again, I don't know the organisational structures, these things. I've often been out, so you have the linesmen coming in, giving out to you to not say give out to you, friendly giving out to you, don't cross the 21 lads outside the D, you're being barked at from them. Surely there's two umpires then, one standing on the line going, I'll watch it if it crosses the line, and then you position yourself behind the goal or whatever it's going to be, and at least you have that. I don't know what the communication is, but either way I think actually both of them are fairly well positioned to see did it go over the line or not, which is it wasn't travelling fast either. Like, I mean, it was stopped and rolled, so it wasn't
So I thought Key Roster spoke very well after the game. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's up on all the Off the Ball social media because we were doing the game on 98 FM yesterday. And he was asked about it. Would you want a video official came in? He said, I wouldn't. But he kind of, all but without saying it, said, do you know what? The two umpires are a few feet away from that. It's incredibly clear that Mark Fanning gets his hurl onto the ball on the line.
Yeah.
This isn't even close. There's been ones before. Like, I had a certain amount of sympathy for the one at Croke Park. Remember in the club final? Where there's players' bodies in the way, but still the umpire behind the goal should be positioned in the right position to see that gone over the line.
Oh, the Finch and Burke one?
Yeah. This one, though. Okay. Like this one.
Yeah, this is very simple.
If you see the shot in GA Plus afterwards, and loads of people have screenshot it to just show how on the line it is, the umpires have an absolutely perfect view of that. So even if the referee gives it, the umpire has to communicate. Has to.
Yeah.
I hate to turn this into Premier League, but because they said last week that for the broadcast games, the audio is available to the broadcasters of what's being said, I'm intrigued to hear if the umpire didn't say anything whatsoever. Because surely the umpire on that post side has to spot it. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Does this need VAR?
No, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is it not like, I know again people are terrified of introducing a like of a VAR, but we probably have quite a few decisions this year that would fully stand over it in terms of you're not going to them, you're not stopping the game every time you're indecisive about something, not even going to it as much as Hawkeye. You're not doing that. But here's one example where, like I made the point when we were at Dublin and Kilkenny with the 4 red cards, that Alan Tynan's wasn't in person when I was sitting in the stadium. And that's a red card. And then 10 seconds later, when the real-time footage came up on TG Cahir on the little monitor in front, you were like, oh, that's not a red card. It's actually very quick that you're able to do it. It doesn't have to turn into this. Like, it's not like when you're in the Premier League and you're going, well, we need to draw a line here and a line here, and when was the ball kicked and to get offside. This is literally, did this cross the line? Did it not cross the line? Did a shoulder hit the head? Did it not hit the head? Move on. And I think it's also a thing that if you just allow it just to happen in the background, just allow it to happen in the background, and a quick word down to the referee, say, ref, actually hang on for a second here now. Like, again, it wasn't a goal. Okay, grand. There we go. So, more and more, I think we're going to see these decisions where you say, well, there's a little justification for one there, there's another one. And to be honest, the other side is, and I keep making this point as well, until we actually give the referees this assistance, it's, you still can't jump in their back. It was a bad decision. That was a bad decision. That was on the umpires. But we're going to keep having these unless we actually do something about it.
Yeah, sports fan, that is a fair question. Will Galway have their own? They do. Their stats team, I saw them up in the bunker. So the highlights for tonight were being taped, I think, over on the left-hand side, and the Offaly and Galway stats teams were both over on that side. I've actually never known such a media presence as we had last night. Maybe because it was a 6:30 game, and maybe because it wasn't on TV. Loads of media turned up for the game. It was live on, I think, 4 or 5 different places. Red na Gaeltacht to Galway Bay. It was on Midlands. It was on RT Radio 1 because it wasn't really clashing with anything else. And then there were the crews, and the stats crews were all over on the far side. And they'll have a perfect view of it because they were on the terrace end. So I've no doubt they've got it. Also, it is, because I've heard a few different appeals coming this way, as long as your stats team has got an uninterrupted and single shot of the pitch, you can put that in as evidence. It doesn't have to be the TV broadcast. But you can't have it obviously cut where it goes 34, 35, back to whatever. You can't highlight things. But if you can put in the unedited footage, they can have a look at it. So, again, as when Galway were leaving last night, they had not made any decision about whether they were going to appeal. So, that's where we are. Did the umpire pick up the green flag for the penalty goal? Speaking as a former umpire having seen it, that's a very poor decision. I think the referee had given it, didn't
he? I don't know now. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think he had. Again, for anyone who was in Parnell Park. But do you know what? I couldn't believe it. I was listening to the radio commentary of it at the time because I was literally on the way into the Galway and Offaly match, and I heard that doesn't sound good. When you've got guys in a radio position saying that doesn't look like it's over the line, and then straight away it had blown up, and I saw the clip, which was from GA Plus, and you're just thinking, I don't know how they've got that decision wrong. Like it's a hell of a win for Dublin as well, Murph, against Wexford. I said at the top they've been a thorn in the side when it comes to Wexford, particularly games away from home against Dublin in recent times. But they're in a perfect spot now. They go into the break, they've beaten Offaly, they've beaten Wexford. Probably one more win sees them go into the top 3. That may well have to come at Corrigan Park, or it could be Galway in the last game. Kilkenny have kind of had their number over the last while, but they're in a hell of a position now.
Well, they're in a great position now, yeah, and so early on to be, I suppose, like this will bring great confidence into their camp that this is a possibility so early on in the Leinster Championship. I know they'll have looked at games, and Niall O'Keelcon will have looked at certain games, and they're the games we have to take points from. And I guarantee he would have been looking at the Wexford game saying, lads, this is a one. And as well, because you beat Wexford, like that's a nice little step up now, because you're going, we bet them on our own terms. Like the last few years, we've seen Dublin drawn with Wexford and Wexford Park, kind of being unconvincing at different times, but just going and beating them. I was laughing. I think I sent it on to you earlier on about, I read just the post-match review on the GA website, and the GA said Dublin were installed as considerable underdogs beforehand. And I was just saying, well, no, they weren't considerable underdogs going into this game. Some people may have been saying, well, after seeing a few of the results of Wexford, maybe Wexford are going up to Parnell Park to win. I think the 3 of us tipped Dublin. I could be wrong. Yeah,
you're right. No, you're right. I was right. I have it here in front of me, Mark.
There, good man. Good man for the records. Fair play at you. But like the 3 of us tipped it. So there in yourself, you're going, the positive signs were there for Dublin. But to bring it back to what you're saying, well, yeah, absolutely. This leaves them in a great position. Going to Corrigan Park won't be simple on them either. I mean, we saw Kilkenny were down by a point at half time. Again, it's this old anomaly of Antrim at Corrigan Park. It's not a given. We don't know what Antrim team will turn up. But it's not a given. But certainly for that Dublin camp, again, I would nearly compare it to like the Waterford camp. Despite the fact they were in the All-Ireland quarter-final last year, a little bit starved of success. You know, they've been to Leinster finals and so on, but they just haven't had that turning over a new leaf, you know, bit of positivity. We're really headed in the right direction here. And maybe this year is a platform for building again next year. And I think a big thing for them as well is drawing lads into the panel. And something that Niall O'Callaghan has done really well is recalling fellas that were part of, you know, the panel maybe a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. He's recalled them and he's gotten a great bounce off them as well. So I think in terms of Dublin hurling in general, they'll be absolutely delighted with that in terms of the positivity that is in their favour at the moment. But again, they still have to get them results. They want to get out of Dublin. They don't want to start off really well and then suddenly turn around at the end of this campaign going, well, the wheels came off that after the Wexford match, let's say. So there's work to be done. But I think Niall O'Callaghan at this stage would have said, yeah, that's absolutely mighty. If we're in that position after the Wexford game, mighty. So yeah, it's good. And it's good for the Leinster Championship that Dublin are headed that direction as well.
Aren't they a far different team than what they were, let's say, 3 years ago? In my opinion, right, I always thought there was an over-dependency on Sutcliffe and Burke.
Yeah.
And that's why you used to get these wild shots, you know, these crazy shots from crazy angles from the two boys because, you know, there was lack of scoring power everywhere else, you know. But now you've got your man, Heatherton, is that how you pronounce his name correctly?
Yeah, Heatherton. Yeah, what did he get?
Two or three? You got 2 or 3, like Ron Hayes, Dara Power, you know, Sean Curry. Like, I love they play a pace game. It's so hard to defend. It really is. Yeah. Like, in terms of out and out pace, they're up there with the very top. You know, I would establish Cork, of course, as the fastest team, you can say, the most powerful running, paciest team. Dublin are close, like they are, and it's all across the pitch. So I like the real tight running game. They have a tight pass running game, and now they've got primary ball winners that can get their own points. So if you have a situation whereby you can mix up your game plan, so Dublin can work it out from the back, which we know they can, and now they can deliver long. I would have always questioned the retention rate in the full forward line, always with Dublin, the ability to retain it. But now we've got a big unit, like he's a big boy, Heatherton. I mean, fire into him. Ron Hayes is able to take it too. You know, and even Curry for a small man, I don't mean a small man, but you know what I'm trying to say, a smaller man than Heatherton, they're able to take it. So they're in a great position, but they're a different Dublin outfit that I would have said maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, and like 326 without Donald Burke as well.
Yeah. That's fair, clipping lads. Yeah,
that's great.
Again, in a pitch that plays tight.
Yeah.
You know,
complete another score fest. I only have one concern about Dublin, which they're going to have to fix. And that's that a few times in the last couple of weeks, teams have been able to go direct right down the middle of them, particularly from the puck out. So Offaly got loads of joy from Oisin Kelly and Brian Dignan doing it the week before, which set up their 2 goals. And almost exactly the same happened with Lee Chin when he put his hand up, caught the ball out of the air for Rory O'Connor's goal. They're going to have to clean that up against the better teams. Because Kilkenny leech you alive with their half-forward line if they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, they are. And I think probably from the beginning, it looked like the Dublin just set up the way they set up. That was it. We're not going to market anyone specifically. After about 10 minutes, that changed. Do you know what I mean? Because, and Wexford, what I think more concerning, Will, if you go to Wexford for a moment, is their puck-out strategy. It just seems to be wherever Chin is, that's it. Genuinely, it's like, okay, where's Lee? Okay, he's on the 10 position. Let's puck it down there. And the different goes up, puts up his hand and gets it. You know what I mean? Like, he's a beast. I swear to God.
Oh, unbelievable. Again, he got a bit of a knock during the game, so hopefully he's going to be okay for next round.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Unbelievable stuff.
Yeah.
Go on.
That's a rarity, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, if you're a teammate, if you're a supporter, if you're a coach, and you see a fella drop his hurl, right? We've seen token attempts in the past before, of course we have. But an out-and-out dive to block it down, like, jeez, my man.
If you're his teammate, lads, is that like the massive lift that you get? Because like that is where he's putting his hand in where normally you'd put your hurl, and he's just decided, I'm going to throw myself at this.
Yeah, it's a follow me attitude, isn't it, Murph?
Yeah, completely. Yeah. Like it's one of those ones where if you're 50 yards away from or 60 yards away, you automatically kind of want to win the next ball straight away because you're like, well, he's after blocking that. I don't know, it's a rare example. He's after blocking that with his hands. Jesus, I should at least get out here and win the next ball or get a hook or get a block. And yeah, like there's just it's a great buzz goes through the team when someone does something like that. But like that's a very rare example, a man blocking it with his hand. But the
only man I've seen do it before, Murph, was Brian Lohan. He did it back in like 0-0-0-1 against Tipp, or was it 0-2 against Tipperary, where he just lost everything, dived all the way across the goal. Someone who's watching this is going to tell me what game that was, and blocked down. Was it Lahey or something?
Paddy Maher going to do it as well. I can't remember if he got the block. It was over there the sideline. I think it was a league game, and I remember him losing the hurl and just going to block with his hand. I can't remember if he got it. I think the ball went out for a line ball or something. But that's the only That's the only one I remember.
Yeah, like if we're going to be missing Dahi now for the extra game in 2 weeks, presumably.
Probably,
So I just think Fintan Burke, wherever you're going, buddy, go Leach in. Because Fintan's an animal. He's an animal too. Let's say he's built for that kind of wrestling. Do you know what I mean? Contest, should I say contest?
Yeah, well, there you go. There's ML89. You can take that one scale as well. You've just said Fintan goes and has the contest physically. If Dahi's there, does he go for chin? Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Yes, Dahi can play anywhere. He can play anywhere on the pitch. You know what I mean? He's that kind of person. So if Chin ends up at 10, Dahi pick him up. But look, let's be realistic here. Let's be realistic. Dahi's not going to be playing. That red card. There is no, well, going off this year, there's no chance he gets overturned.
So. It does seem reasonably unlikely. There's a lot of people there who are making the point. I can't take Shane's one here. If Dublin get to Leinster finals, do you genuinely think it'll actually be a game this time, or will they crap the jocks like they did last year? Last year for me, Murph, was the worst one. The one where they had the sicknesses and injuries. Remember the COVID one? I had a lot of sympathy for them that time around. Last year, Kilkenny just pulled them off the pitch.
Yeah, it was very. It was just so lackluster as well. But this was kind of symptomatic of Dublin of the last few years. Like I was at them against Cork in Thurles last year in the quarter final, and Cork just waltzed around them. And last 5 minutes, when they knew the year was going to be over, they suddenly mustered this big spirited attack against Cork. And you're just going, well, why are you doing it now? As in, the game's over? Why are you suddenly now rallying? But the Leinster final, there wasn't even a rally. It was just very flat. And I don't know whether that's it's a psychological thing. It's not a hurling thing. You just turn up and whatever the preparation has been, you're just extremely flat. The structure was a little bit all over the place as well. So there was very little. The structure was.
We remember that. I particularly remember their half back and half forward line were all over the shop. Any half forward line dropped out and got whatever they wanted.
Whatever they wanted. Yeah. Oh, it was a nothing match, So again, we said earlier in the show about people being frustrated about maybe how we were writing off Waterford or whatever it's going to be. You can only work off what you've seen. If people are asking, will Dublin be any different in Croke Park? They have to show us that they're going to be different. It's not a case of us saying, will they, won't they? Until we see a different Dublin in a Leinster final in Croke Park, the term crap the jocks was used there. We don't know what they're going to do. But I would be inclined to say, I'd give it a bit of positivity to them here at the moment. Like we're saying, there's green shoots there at the moment that we can say maybe they're headed in the right direction here, and maybe there's a rawness about this Dublin group that they might muster at least a more spirited performance if it's to be a case that it's Kilkenny Dublin in the final. Well, maybe, possibly, but it's still hard to see them beaten. That's another step up that I think Dublin will have to show. So.
Addressing a couple of things that come in there. People wonder, is there going to be football pod tonight? There will. I believe they're recording in a little bit. It's been a hell of a couple of weekends of football. Sorry, Skehill, just don't listen for a second. Last year's rounds of football have been amazing. Dublin have had their first Leinster defeat in 15 years today against Meath, which is just remarkable. Cork and Kerry was brilliant last Saturday, and we had a down almost comeback again against Donegal today. So we've had some really, really good football. So yeah, keep an eye out for the football pod, which will be up very soon later on. They've got a live show in Galway as well, if you're that way inclined, ahead of the Connacht final. So check out offtheball.com/events for all the details there before I put Skehill to sleep on that one. Just on the referees, right? So there's loads of these comments coming in. And here's Steve. The Sunday game won't criticise referees tonight. There's now a culture of accepting mediocrity in refereeing. Expect more shocking decisions for the rest of the year, lads. Right, so without making this personal in any way about any of the referees, because a few people are criticising specific referees there, I would argue that the standard refereeing has not been great this year.
That it hasn't been?
No. I think we've had... I thought the red cards were being enforced after they were being told to be enforced, where we did have a certain amount of sympathy for the referees, but there were bad decisions around that. I think we've had a lot of, every week now it seems we've got some bad call that we're talking about.
I don't think it's fair. I don't think that's fair, Will.
No?
I wouldn't go that far,
I can be harsh at times too, that's to be fair, but I'm trying to understand what they're trying to, referee, what they're trying to adjudicate. The game is so fast right now. We've never seen the game this fast. Or this physical. Freeze today, again, there's times today I didn't know what a free was. Arm tackles, hurls in. Horgan's shins don't get that way. You know what I mean? See the bloody shins taking the freeze?
Yeah.
I just think they're such a hard job. I just don't think they have enough support. I do think that the game has got to a stage whereby, as I said, it's so fast, it's so physical, it's so intense, and there's so much happening all over the pitch. They need assistance.
Yeah.
I'm going down this road again. We went down last year about the second referee or whatever. It's just that that's what they need, and I think we agree they need more assistance. So in the same breath, we can't turn around and be critical of them, heavily critical. I don't think mediocrity is the word. I think we're dealing with amateur people here as well. We're an amateur association, and we're comparing them against professional rugby referees, soccer referees, NFL officials, etc., who have video for everything. So I just don't think we're doing, apples with apples. And I can be critical. Don't get me wrong, I roar at referees all the time in games.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
I do, absolutely do. I say, because I want an advantage, don't get me wrong. But I'm not quick to jump down their throats. That's all.
Yeah. I think last weekend the refereeing was outstanding. I thought it was really good. And the one thing that for me that I noticed as well, like when you don't have skin in the game in terms of you're watching Munster Championship matches and you're just watching them play out, you're far more able to remove yourself from the passion that's involved in it. Like I be watching games there, and if the passion is, first of all, if it's an excellent game and the passion is high, the very first victim of all of that is the referee, because invariably, unless it's the draw, some team is going to lose, and they'll invariably hinge that on one thing happening from a referee. And if you think back of any, I think I said it last week, if you think back of any of the great games that we've had over the last few years, people can pick out a refereeing decision in those games where you go, oh, the referee was brutal, that's what's after contributing to this game. I'd be far more inclined to lean towards, I thought the refereeing is actually good this year, but in very small spaces, like the Sean Stack performance to Tipperary Kilkenny, I thought, okay, Alan Tyne didn't deserve to be sent off in that instance. That was maybe one of his poorer games, but I think I think the following week, I can't remember who he's reffing. I remember thinking, okay, yeah, he's actually had a good game there. I think overall in general, like people jump on Johnny Murphy straight away. Like I'm looking at today's game, Cork and Tipp. You look at that game started. Me as, let's say, a former inter-county player standing in the middle of the field trying to control that and a packed Páirc Uí Chaoimh, it's absolutely pandemonium. Mm-hmm. And first of all, the ball was thrown in. I think Alan Tynan pops it over the bar. A fight starts at centre back, but the red card happens at full forward.
So the tiny one was strange, right? So a lot happened in a very short period of time. Yeah. But Tynan puts the ball over the bar and then it's rescinded. Was that because of the foul further out the field?
I just think because
was it blown?
I think what happened was the whole thing was kicking off. I don't even know if it was blown because
it was pandemonium.
But there you are. Like we're watching it. I'm sitting home having a cup of tea on the couch watching it, and I'm confused. Like, what's Johnny Murphy meant to do? And again, this isn't me throwing myself in front of bullets for Johnny Murphy, but I'd be inclined to agree with Skehill where you're going, like, they only have X amount of assistants. Last week, we saw a really good insight in where GA Plus, you could hear the commentator saying that Liam Gordon's mic'd up and Thomas Welch was mic'd up, and they were hugely complimentary because they could hear the decisions. There's also one thing that I think confuses GA fans is that we don't hear what the referee's decision or thought process is. If you could hear it, you would actually, I'll put it this way, if 100% of people were angry with the referee, if he was able to explain his decision in real time, you could hear that on telly. I think 50% of those people will go, okay, I actually understand. You're still going to have a group of people who will go, no, he's wrong there. That was a bad decision. But within all that, you still also have to deal with the bad decisions. And there are still bad decisions as well. Another thing referees still have to deal with is a foul you constantly still see is, let's say, I'm going through and I'm a forward, I'm running through on Skehill. Skehill's a defender. I grab Skehill's arm and I get the free, even though Skehill's like, he's holding my arm there. Those type of frees, I hate that one. And referees are still falling for that. So there's one, for example, that's very hard to call. Like, again, I go back to Tipperary and Cork today. There was a few ones there where I think Seamus Harnedy got booked for something on Sam O'Farrell. When the cameras cut to it, Seamus Harnedy was being thrown to the ground by Sam O'Farrell. I'm not saying Sam O'Farrell was the instigator in that, but by the time Johnny Murphy turns, by the time linesmen turn, you have two players on the ground tussling, and what do you do? There's so much happening, and I think he'll just round it off with Skehill's point. Until they have more assistance, I think it's very tough to be really hard on referees there, because the other side is, like, these are lads putting their hands up to actually ref these games.
Yeah.
Like, how many more people?
We just need to put the attention towards the GA, I think, Murph. I don't think we should look at the referees. And again, I have to just superimpose this point. I am critical of referees myself at times, don't get me wrong, when emotions are high. Particularly when my own teams are involved. But the support structure has to get better. It's that simple. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like the GA, we're not, I wouldn't say we're awash of money, we're not, but we can certainly afford, especially in inter-county games, to bring in one or two extra officials. It's quite simple. You know what I mean? The funding is there, so just go and do it. So that's where the focus needs to be, over towards them.
And I think even another added point in is, like, Will, you put up a graphic? I think one of us got a graphic there. I think actually McLinahan sent it to me from Clubber, that for TG4 for the league final, the cameras they had, the amount of cameras they had, and the different positions they had them in. I mean, there must have been about 17 cameras.
I think it was 17,
Yeah. So, like, Brilliant, but why don't we loop that into, again, if we're talking about this fourth official who gets to have a look at that and pick up something, and if they don't pick something up, fine. But we do have the technology there for big intercounty matches to do it as well. So I'm not going to be trying to champion all this VAR stuff or anything, but at the same time, if we're going to be really angry about referees, well, then give them the support, or otherwise we kind of just have to be quiet and accept there's going to be human failures within refereeing.
I'd love to see. Sorry, but
go on. No, go on.
I'm just saying I'd love to see a second referee in a referee in each half, and I'm telling you for a fact the defensive structure would change dramatically in a team if there's a guy just not watch the play, watching his area.
Oh, yeah.
So Murphy, if you go back to your day, right? You're in corner forward or in corner back. You're wrestling with Bubbles the Dwyer, okay? There's a ref just 20 yards away from you, watched you, and he's ready to blow the whistle. You're not going to go hash him. You're not going to.
Do you know that, Skehill? I'd volunteer for that myself. Do you know the way in the NFL they have the boys with the yellow flags? I'd love to stand in there with the oak and be winging flags around the place, busting lads with flags. Like all they come down, it's like confetti when it arrives. The ball arrives down to my confetti everywhere.
Across the TV.
Yellow for him, red for him.
You're all screwed.
Yeah.
Speaking of Parnell Park, I don't know. Again, I'm looking at a picture from Sports File of the pitch here. I don't know what's happened. So I noticed there was a straight line like a T. Do you know what actually's happened here? Because to me it looked like someone's thrown Roundup on it or something.
From a farming perspective, it's either it's definitely Roundup or it's flipping Martone or MCPA 50. You know what I mean?
What's this?
So there's a lovely green surface on most of Parnell Park, and then there's squiggly lines up at one end, and there's what looks like a T around midfield. Now it looked bad last week for the Dublin Offaly game, but it looked like it had got considerably worse during the week, which is what surprised me the most, because I thought maybe ahead of championship they were throwing something on it. Maybe they needed specifically to look at areas of the pitch, but it shouldn't get worse a week later, Skell, should it? Given you're a farming man here.
What should happen over a couple of weeks? It should get darker and darker. It should.
Yeah.
But what's supposed to happen then is they're supposed to either stitch it, which means you stitch in a new grass seed, or you basically plough it, harrow it, which they wouldn't let the pitch course. You wouldn't let you just stitch it. But I've seen it in a lot of places now where they do kill off the grass right down, and then they come in with a machine and stitch it, and they get a new grass in straight away. Well, when I say straight away, within a number of weeks, but I've never seen it done in season. You know, during flipping championship, like I've never seen that. You know, but to us it looked places dead, but you would see grass down the lads.
Yeah, no, it looked really rough. And so I was talking to a Leinster official about this yesterday. So they're due to play at home on Bank Holiday Monday in the Leinster Under-20 quarterfinals, and they're now going to check the pitch beforehand, because I don't think anyone expect to be as bad as it was on Saturday just gone. It's rough though.
Look at that ball.
Go on, what's caught your attention there?
I can see fucking sheep from the neighbour's field trying to get into my field.
I'm sure they're going to be fine.
No, but I don't want them eating my grass, Will. We're talking about grass.
Will your pitch be as bad as Parnell Park if that happens, potentially?
I've glorious surface out here when I'm battling the rushes.
Right, we got a little bit off the beaten track because we were about to talk about what Cork have done. So today, very similar to the league final, I thought, obviously with the exception of the red card early on, which is hugely insignificant. They win the league final 324 to 23 points. They bang 3 goals in that one in the second quarter. The goals came a little bit earlier this time around. But there's a familiar kind of feel to it where it felt like Cork at the game completely killed even by the time the teams went in at half time. It was 12 points, I think was the difference at half time, 15 at full time. And again, Declan Dalton adds the 4th goal for a little bit of extra spice here as well, Murph. But this to me was Cork, again, winning at a canter. Would they have preferred maybe something a little bit trickier before they go into the break?
Would they prefer something trickier?
Closer game.
Before the game, you just want to win. So before, I think, they're just going, listen, whatever gets the points on the board, that's the most important thing. You're not going to be too concerned. Like a good game, when you learn something about yourself at this stage is not priority. You did know there's enough games coming. But in hindsight, absolutely, they would have benefited a lot more from a game. A more competitive game, definitely. And preferably for them, if they come out to the other side of it. And again, it's close. You're going to take a lot more from it. Like, we're still looking at it. What did Cork take from today? Did it take a huge amount? Probably not. It was an opportunity to go against Tipperary, who, in fairness, tried their best to stay in the game, fought hard, stayed dogged. Cork won't take a huge amount. Arguments might say, I think Tipperary might have taken more from today. They'll be disappointed. They fought hard. Skehill referred to it earlier, where about the turnovers, the possession, they were actually very dogged towards the end. So they'll kind of take a little bit more from it. It's almost like, if you look at it last week, Clare coming back against Cork. Cork would have taken more from that game because they let a lead slip. They would have been down on themselves. They would have been kicking themselves a little more. Clare would have felt a little bit more of, geez, we got out of jail there. We let a team get a good start in this, etc. So, yeah, Cork would have preferred more of a game today. But at the end of the day, they have 3 points on the board. And that's really all they're concerned about now, because they have a good break. And 3 weeks' time, it's Limerick. That's their next fixture, isn't it? Like 3 weeks break with a chance maybe to get a bit more training under the belt, have a look at the likes of Rob Downey in terms of an injury, which looked like a dead leg, a few things like that. I think they're just happy regardless there now that they have 3 points. They're the best placed team in Munster now at the moment. So I think they're just going, right, we'll sit back there now for a few weeks and just have a look at other teams, get our own house in order, and then make a real serious tilt again at Limerick. So, yeah, they would have preferred more of a game, but 2 points is the main thing, and whatever you get after that, you get.
Yeah. Alex Rowe, damn straight. Cork seem to be a goal machine this year. They really, really, really are. It's, again, it was like, to me, Scott, when I was watching the game earlier, they smell blood. It was once those gaps started to open up, let's go at it. Let's kill it. Let's bring up green flags.
Yeah.
Second half, not the case. But first half, when it felt like they needed to put the hammer down, they did.
They do. When they need to hammer the hammer, they do. Like, Murphy, you're right. I think in the sense that when Cork have to up the levels, they do, no problem. I think it's not an issue. I think when they're double scores ahead, 12, 13 points, their levels drop. I actually think it's just nature of a team, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's they're so synchronized at the moment in such a good way. Like, you see, I'm always looking forward to seeing how much separation can they get from the defenders. And to the naked eye, right, you'd see the ball would be landing into, let's say, the Cork's forward zone today, and you'd see maybe 3 or 4 yard separation. You're going, why can't the Tip get close to the Cork? That's not the case. Like, I'd love if they just showed the high behind goal as well. You would see the movement that goes on. Yeah. And like when you have a defender, as I said, more occupied, watching the man and watching the ball, it's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 3 inside lads are so good at layering their movement, one in front of the other, that it's impossible for a Tipperary defenceman to even stay zone. He just can't stay zone, right? Because the guys move so well and watch the game. So that's why their movement is fantastic. The ball's flying. The ball is the ball is. They're getting good ball in, of course they are, but it's not. It's not this amazing ball that's coming off the training park. It's a puck out to number 2 to 7, and then on down to the forward, where the forward has created separation. So and like when you have separation defense and you've the defense running in all different angles, it creates gaps in your defense. When you have gaps, you have no structure. No structure means goals. That's just it. So like it's become a team now. I don't know, is this the 3rd time we've seen Dara Fitzgibbon? I know he didn't score, but run that side in behind, pick up a 11 penalty, run in, chip across the penalty. That's the 3rd time I think this year I've seen him do that. Either scored himself. So this is a structured setup they're doing. And look, with that, it provides the opportunity to get goals. But it's just score first, goal second. Like it's amazing to watch, and they're really moving in a nice pattern the way it's going.
It's a fair point raised by O'Dwyer, Callan and McGrath here again. Tipperary had 3 decent goal chances during the game. Is Downey being out leaving a Jack Lynch tunnel-sized hole in their defence for the rest of Munster and beyond? It depends how bad the injury is. I know the same commenter put down earlier that you saw him on crutches coming out of Páirc Uí Chaoimh, so I haven't heard anything confirmed as to how bad or not bad the injury is. If he's missing though, Murph, is that a big problem for Cork's defence?
He's important. There's no doubt about that. He is important. Like, he's just such a solid hand there. The 2 Downies down the centre, it's one of those things where you just go, well, that's those positions sorted. We don't have to think about that. And have such a dominant figure there at centre back. I mean, it's so comforting, I think, as a Cork supporter to go, Rob Downey's at centre back. Like, when you look at the likes of the goal he scored in the All-Ireland final last year, running up the middle like that, like, he's just a powerhouse. His tackling is brilliant. His ferocity is brilliant. And I think it also allows the likes of, like, Kieran Joyce has been really good there over the last few years. But Kieran Joyce, we've seen him at midfield as well. He has the capability, he's a great defender, but his capability to push on a small bit. Coleman is the same. Having Downey there allows them 2 boys go off. It's like Declan Hannon. It's like, I'll hold this. Ye can go up the side, and you see Kyle Hayes, and you see Dermot Burns going up the side. It's very similar. If Rob Downey isn't there, automatically it makes Cork a little bit weaker. And that's Tony Kelly's missing from Clare. Will O'Donoghu's missing from Limerick. Any of these players, they automatically, such as their calibre, they automatically make their team a little bit weaker. The other thing I'll say with Cork as well is that if you were to pick one side or other that they were more, I suppose they have bigger numbers in terms of real established players, it's the forwards. They have a lot of forwards. And they do have a lot of good backs. We saw Jeremy Miller coming in there today, being really involved, etc. But they have a lot of more forward options there. But then if we're really to go specific into the weeds, you go, well, how many players can do what Rob Downey does? not really. He's the only lad that can do that. So I think it was just a dead leg. Pat Ryan said it after the game that he was asked, was it a serious injury or was it more of a cautionary taking him off? And he said, no, he was more of a cautionary thing. And like that, you might have seen him coming out with crutches, but a physio's advice this day and age now might be, listen, keep that leg raised, keep it off the ground, don't go walking out. And, crutches once upon a time was broken ankle, broken leg, broken whatever. Crutches now might be, keep that off the ground there and just get out to the car and go home with yourself, So he has 3 weeks. It's ideal, to be honest. If it's a dead leg, he'll be okay after 10 days or so.
A lot of suggestions there, as you will have seen, Skehill popping up, that you move Owen Downey out to 6 rather than, say, putting Coleman there and keeping Owen Downey at 3. So you make your switch there and put him out into the half-back line. Do you think Owen Downey might be more comfortable playing at 6 than he's at 3?
Himself and Rob play a strikingly similar pattern, don't they? The way of playing. They're like a rangy, elusive, and they have a very close, tight-knit touch work as well for big lads. Yeah, so they're very skillful players. Normally with big people, you'd see them, they're power first, skill second, but these guys are that in equal form. Does your team get better with Owen Downey at centre back or worse? That's a good question, Will. Keep me thinking now.
Well, I didn't ask it. It's 3
No,
or
the
4
question
different
I'm just going back to Kieran Joyce. Why wouldn't they put him in centre back? That's the question I'm asking myself. He was there, but in the same breath, there's a reason he got moved out of it. Do you know what I mean? So, what is that reason? Was he stronger midfield or wing back?
Wasn't the feeling to freed him up a bit by going out there too?
Jeez, that's a good question.
Didn't they put him out midfield against Clare last year as kind of a Willie Go, Marshall and Tony Kelly, something like that, or there was something to that effect I'm just trying to think of. And he went really well once they kind of moved him out. But at the same time, Tim O'Mahony is going well kind of midfield. So I think there was just kind of movement on Kieran Joyce there, but I wouldn't have any doubts. If Kieran Joyce went back centre back, I'd be going.
Yeah, I wouldn't be inclined to move my full back out. That's just me.
No.
I'd like to leave my full back there. No doubt he can play there. Of course he probably can, but I'd like to, when you've got a settled full back line, and he's obviously imperious at full back, I wouldn't be touching him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leave him alone.
There's a few people questioning whether he is imperious at 3. I think probably a difficult day the last day, but he's not a bad defender.
Who? Owen Downey?
Owen Downey, yeah.
He's not bad. He's a great defender.
He's brilliant.
Who said he's a bad defender?
There's a few people there who say maybe the bigger concern is at 3 with Downey, with Owen Downey. So I was kind of saying, let's just address it. Sometimes you take this aggressively as if I'm trying to have a go at the guy. I'm literally filtering the comments that are coming in from people and going, and I think I would accept that when Clare put in high ball in that direction the last time, it was tricky. But I would say that was probably the extent of it. I wouldn't have said he was a bad defender outside of that whatsoever.
I just think with particular attention to Duggan, right? If Duggan can touch you and feel you, you're in bother. So if Clare deliver a long ball, if I was coaching Owen Downey, I'd be saying to him, don't let Duggan touch you. Don't let him feel you. Do you know what I mean? Because once he has you, he can grab you with his left arm, catch with the right, and vice versa, and get off. And that's just a little coaching tip, but that's not a reason to get him out of full back.
Mike, I respect your question, but this would turn into a full members pod if we brought this up. What does Skehill think of the Patriots draft picks?
I give it a solid A minus. Yeah, very happy.
A minus?
Yeah. A plus would be ridiculous. Like that would be us getting Abdul Carter and Will Campbell, but we're very happy with Will Campbell, so I'm delighted.
Interesting, because the feeling seemed to be among the Patriots fans in the office, without bringing this too far down this tangent, was that they felt that they would have gotten an even better draft if they hadn't fucked up by winning their last game last year.
Did they have the number 1 pick?
Yeah.
But the trouble is, we need O-line help. We don't need a quarterback. And Cam Ward went first as a quarterback. Anyways, I keep talking about this for ages. Go on.
You will. That is the problem. Here's a better question on the hurling side of things here. Question for Skehill. If that non-goal had happened against you, this is the Dublin goal from the penalty, would you have been able to forget about it and focus on the next ball, or would you be fuming for the next few minutes and it would impact you?
So I would try to influence umpires and referees as much as I could through demonstration. Anybody would. As soon as their decision is final, that's it. I'm not fucking God. I can't change their mind. Move on. Yes, you'd be cracked. I'd be more cracked after the game, to be honest, but in game, you just don't get a chance. You just have to keep rocking. And things have happened plenty of times in games, probably to all of us, whereby we're not happy with decisions, but you just have to swallow it. Yeah. Because what will happen is you get emotionally hijacked and then fucking another goal goes in. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
My apologies, Mike Oxmall, who wanted your full name being used as opposed to it just being Mike. But there you go. I felt like I put you back to Mike, but no.
Shall I call that out there, Will?
Yeah, go on.
Don't say his name.
Are you sure?
Oh, hold on. There you go.
He's trying to do you. And you actually done it well. You said Mike, and then you left it blank. Don't say his name. Skehill hasn't done him yet.
I have. I copped it in and I saw it.
I was looking at him as soon as he said it. I was there going, if a lad is asking to say his full name, do not say it.
They caught me. I will admit that. I see Shane saying that. Thankfully, I went into newsreader mode and didn't run them into each other where that could have ended badly and probably got us banned.
Well played.
Thanks a lot, user Mike, which we're going to call you from now on. Look again, there's Kevin Ullman. Similarly, down he had a rough day with Duggan the last day, but he proved his worth today, especially Niall O'Leary on Hayes. Had a great game again today and has been brilliant all year. I saw someone who was putting up there, Murph, again, here's the expert cornerback opinion, which is, again, jumping a couple of games ahead, which is how do Limerick deal with Brian Hayes when that game comes around?
Sure, look, like some instances, there's no great science involved in it. You just have to have your most tigerish defender go at him and realize that Brian Hayes is, like, we think of what attributes other players have that is just their best quality. Brian Hayes is just a great ball winner. He's gritty. He holds the ball up. His decision making is like himself and Alan Connolly. People talk about Cork are hungry for goals. Them two boys get the ball and they just basically go, is there a goal on here? If there's a sniffle one, they run at you. And they're big men, so they run at you. And they make the back make a decision, and we're going to foul you. And if you again, we'll go back, you'll get your super valued club points there, and you'll eventually get a yellow card after a while. They'll make you make those decisions. Or, as we've seen, they'll win the ball, make it stick in the full forward line, and recycle it. What do you do with Hayes? Well, sure, you'd have to just go with like a man we didn't mention last week, like Dan Morrissey or someone, Mike Casey. You go on to him and you say, listen, your job's very simple today. Get out there and follow him wherever he goes and just be absolutely stuck in, except that he'll most likely win a ball, but he's a good player. And the bottom line just comes down to hurling after that. So, like, you can dissect this and go, oh, well, it's the quality of ball coming in out the field and all that. And you can say whatever you want. The bottom line is some jobs like that just come down to simple hurling. Just get out and get stuck in, run as hard as you can, tackle, try and be clever, don't foul him if you can. If he wins the ball and he's coming at you, even step off him a small bit to let him carry his 4 steps and make him carry the ball twice. A few things like that. But like realistically, you kind of just have to give credit to Brian Hayes here to say he's just outstanding. And I'd say Alan Connolly in that breath as well. Like the two boys, yes, a lad can go out and mark them, but also at the same time, their movement's exceptional. They're very strong men. They're well able to win the ball. Yeah. Like they're just dangerous forwards. So like if you go out and you hurl on them boys and they score, a good day was if they score a point apiece or something like that. That'd be an outstanding day. Do you know?
Yeah.
If you had one of them score,
I don't believe that Murph is, by the way, paid by Super Value in any way.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
Would you ever try hurling from the front, Murph?
Well, ideally, you'd have to try. Like, I mean, the bottom line is, who is he when he doesn't have the ball in his hand? That's the way you'd be approaching it. Like, you know, he's brilliant. He can do all these things, but you'd be, first of all, cut him off at source. Like, just deny him the ball. And oftentimes, like even if I was coaching lads or talking to lads in terms of the backs or cornerbacks, you sometimes like just press a reset in the lad's head and say, do you know the only thing you have to do is stop him getting the ball? It's not even a case like he has to get the ball and then he has to do something with it. He has to go and score a point, he has to score a goal, he has to take you on, he has to recycle, he has to do whatever. But you just have to be an absolute rash. That's all you have to be. Like, you have to go out there and just follow him everywhere, flick, do whatever you want, all within the spirit of the game, but just get involved. And sometimes when people reset their brain that way in terms of cornerbacks, you go, well, actually, yeah, it becomes a foot race between the two of us. Yeah. I might win one, he might win one, but absolutely try and hurl him for the front. Like, if you can read, what I would be doing definitely as a cornerback would be going, it's like what you were saying, Skehill, earlier about looking behind the goal. What way did they deliver the ball? Like, do they predominantly go, well, if Dara Fitzgibbon gets it out on the right side of the field, does he automatically look to spray it to the far side? And if he does, well, then I can gamble on, if I'm out the far side with Brian Hayes, I can then run before Dara Fitzgibbon hits it and maybe get a yard or two ahead of him. And then suddenly now I'm on the front foot. But if you don't look in, if you don't get the video of Brian Hayes or Alan Connolly, you can't do that. You don't know what the pattern is. So if I was a cornerback, I'd be saying to Pat Ryan, or not to Pat Ryan, I'm saying to any other, John Kiley or whoever, get me the footage from behind the goal so I can see what this boy is doing before the ball is coming in. And for me, predominantly quite a lot of it's that diagonal ball where they bring it out towards midfield and spray it across, and you see two lads. Like at one stage today, we saw Connolly and Brian Hayes colliding. And that's just simply because they made the same run at the same time. So that's what I'd be saying. Like, yeah. And if you do that research and you find actually there's something there. When Tim O'Mahony picks up the ball, he looks to spray it. When Dara Fitzgibbon picks it up, he looks to do whatever. And if that provided you with enough information for 3 or 4 balls to actually run before it struck, well, suddenly now you're in the driver's seat to actually kind of maybe take a few balls and make him start deciding then what he's going to do.
Yeah. Waterford, did you get your 5 or 10 minutes yet? I'm absolutely wrecked. You did. I think the Dacia got a good
30 minutes.
Michael, if you were here on time, my friend.
Has he got a picture of Dunn Stores?
Yes,
Oh,
he does.
Michael.
You're all representing. I saw as well someone, is it Tony Bennett there, or Tony Barrett, sorry, who said, are the two boys sponsored by My Waddy? They might be. We could never really get that endorsement, despite the fact we're all fans of that particular brand.
It would be one of the greatest endorsements if you did get it. You know, there's all these ones out there. There's lads driving Mitsubishis and Lexuses and everything. If I got sponsored by My Waddy, that'll do me. I'd be happy out.
It saved me at least 3 or 4 quid a week at this stage.
Oh, yeah. Can we work this now?
Wow, a sponsorship by My Waddy.
Yeah, surely they'd work with us, would they?
Oh, jeez. I just pick it up. It's the last thing I pick up in Aldi of a Sunday. We do the shopping of a Sunday. They're in Aldi. The last, over on the right, here's the My Waddy. Bottle of it, on you go. That's my...
Will the Sunday game show more of the Leinster Championship tonight or this weekend? The Leinster no, they won't. And I'll tell you why they won't. Because the 2 live games on TV were on RTE today. So what'll happen is, from a production point of view, you've already got them packaged up. You've already had the pundits watch the games. So this is a much easier way to start with those 2. I think naturally you will just go, we're starting with the 2 games we showed on the TV. They did have a camera at the Galway Offaly game, so it's not quite, I saw someone saying, is it like some kind of forbidden fruit that you might have to go to dark ends of the internet to try and get a video of that game from last night. There will be some video available. Obviously GA Plus had it, the Wexford Dublin game. I think that will end up being revoiced, which is what they did last week, which is kind of strange. But then again, GA and RT aren't the same company anymore, and I would think they definitely have footage from Kilkenny and Antrim. I was trying to find Kilkenny and Antrim. It wasn't on BBC, was it? Anyone see?
I don't think so. No,
I was trying to find it. I was trying to find it earlier on in my naive hope to be able to watch 3 things at the one time and just expect the Liverpool were going to win the league handily.
and give high quality analysis afterwards by watching 3 things. I know what you mean, though. I've done it myself, and it is tough, though.
Yeah, and do you know what the other problem was as well? Was that Antrim were so close at halftime, so they got those couple of goals, and you're thinking, oh, okay, McNaughton and Keelan Malloy scored goals again, and they're back with it. Davey did say, I did listen to his interview on Casey Laura afterwards. He said the 45 minutes that Antrim played against Kilkenny today were probably the best 45 minutes. We did give an update in the sheep, by the way. Or sorry, is there an update on where they're gone? Sorry, Scott, go again there.
No, he's still, or she's still there.
Still hanging.
Yeah. Now my cat are going over them, basically inviting her in.
I bet they are. Sorry, the thing that Davey said. So it's related to you guys earlier as well, I think as well. So the first 45 minutes probably the best Antrim played in a long, long time. He felt that they had 6 or 7 goal chances. He thought the 2 Kilkenny goals were a little bit waxy with the way that they scored them as well. And he was actually happier with the Antrim performance, despite it being, was it 18 in the end? I think the defeat was
18. Yeah, it was 36 points to 18.
Yeah, so he kind of opened it out and said that was not an 18-point defeat, but you know, when they were so close early in the second half, it has to be disappointing that Kilkenny obviously pulled away. The team news coming out for Kilkenny, again, I didn't see the game, so I can only really go on what I've read in the reports and what I heard from the 2 managers. Derek Ling was saying the good news is Adrian Mullen's injury isn't as bad as first feared, and he expects he should be back for the Offaly game in 2 weeks' time. He's not quite sure about some of the other players that have picked up knocks over the last while, and he didn't have an update on TJ's timeline either. But I did see TJ was in the tracksuit at the side of the pitch, so he obviously travelled up to Belfast. So I'm assuming that calf injury, they were talking 5-6 weeks initially. He must be getting close to coming back. But,
yeah, there's this is a very small point, but there's a strange kind of calf injury. I got it myself last year. It's a random one. So like I've had calf injuries before where you have a little tweak of the calf, and I'm not saying this is TJ's one because I actually haven't a clue what TJ's one is, but I got a very minute one. Literally on the side of the calf, felt like it just getting tight, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. We were in a club game. I think I was out for 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks with it, and never had it before. And I was chatting to one of the former physios of Kilkenny, or no, I think it might be current. No, sorry, I was chatting to one of the current physios of Kilkenny, and he was just saying this is one of these injuries that has just come up in the last few years that we're just seeing the spate of them, but we can't really understand. Not to say just within the Kilkenny camp, it's a kind of predominant injury within GAA and hurlers that this. I can't even think of the name of the muscle now, but it's keeping lads out for about 6 weeks. So it's not your standard up the middle, my calf is tight, my calf is whatever. It's literally just a tendon or whatever it is. But no, I'm not saying that's what TJ is, but when I heard initially 6 weeks, I was like, that sounds like of a calf injury. That kind of sounds along those lines. So it's kind of more of news.
Gradually, or were you bursting on?
I was in a warm-up. We were warming up for a club match last year, and in the warm-up, I felt a little twang. It was like, you know, a little, like it's like a string.
Something there.
Something. Yeah. I went over to physio, and the physio put the thumb in, relaxed it, and I went, it's only a knot or something like that. Went back out again. And this kept me out for 6 weeks. And it's just, it's again, it's a, I don't know what you'd call it, but It's one of these ones that it's like an AC joint. You could think it's about 80% right, and if you go out and go hard on it, it'll drop back to 40%. You know, so it could be that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I see the good news there, which is come in from Ray, who said that Shea Murphy wasn't a cruciate. Thankfully, the minute he hit the ground, I thought his ligaments were gone. Just the way that the knee kind of went out as well, it looked really bad at the time. So that's good news if he's not going to be out for a while. So fingers crossed he's going to be all right. Right, there was a couple of other ones I just wanted to get to before we finish out. Who should be... Well, there's a good one from One Trick Pony. You can take this. Who should be 6 for Limerick next Saturday? I know what my answer is. Not Will O'Donoghue.
Dan Morrissey.
Midfield. You think Dan Morrissey?
Dan Morrissey. Yeah, I know last week I said Barry Nash, and then afterwards it dawned on me. I was like, I never even mentioned Dan Morrissey. I would be happy with either of those. I would be happy with Dan Morrissey, or I'd be happy with, or even Chanson moving Colin Coughlin in towards the centre and Dan Morrissey on the wing. But I think when you have the options there, I'm yet to see Dan Morrissey play a bad game. So I'm thinking, throw him in at 6. He's an out-and-out defender. If you don't want to hurt yourself going forward, i.e. Will O'Donoghue dropping back, let Will O'Donoghue go midfield, I'd throw Dan Morrissey in centre-back.
Yeah, I see a lot of the commenters saying it should be Hayes. I can totally understand that, Skehill, because we were getting conditioned to Hayes being at 6, and Hayes had spent significant game time there. So surely that was the natural option.
Yeah, I still prefer Hayes at 7, though, personally speaking.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I just think he's licensed to go forward. Good defender, don't get me wrong, but he's licensed to go forward. He's lethal on the side of the pitch himself and Nash that side.
Yeah.
You know, I think we have to probably see an introduction of someone of old. Like, I think you're probably looking at Conor Neal back, is he, or Darragh Donovan, one of them back in.
I don't know if Darragh Donovan, he was on the bench the last day.
He's on the bench,
yeah.
Is it time we see him?
Could very well be.
Yeah, Dan Morrissey has to come back. That was an injury that went very quiet, didn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't even know he'd been injured. It was quiet, yeah.
He missed the last 2 or 3 rounds of the league.
We're all focusing elsewhere. The same when Nicky
came back. Yeah.
You know, there was something beautiful about the fact we were talking about Shane O'Donnell all week. Look at him looking at those sheep. While he's tremendously distracted by the sheep on the move. You know, for the pod listeners, this is going to be a killer. Everyone, what the hell is going on here? The viewers are getting an extra bonus where they can see you in physical pain trying to work out why the sheep was getting through the gate.
My father, God rest him, had a phrase for sheep. He said they're like women drivers. If they see a gap, they're gone through it.
We don't necessarily endorse the comments made by the Skehill family on this podcast.
No, I'm joking.
Off the ball, I like to distance themselves.
We'll take a bit of crack with that, for God's sake.
I think if anyone has got an hour and 46 in, they probably can enjoy your different type of humour. The couple of questions here before we go, because we are getting to that point now where I'd say people probably want to take a break before the Sunday game is actually on, and they can give out about the lack of hurling that's going to be shown today. This is a good one from ML89. Top 5 hurlers in the country right now. For me, Brian Hayes, Carl Mannion, Lee Chin, Kyle Hayes, and Tim O'Mahony.
Is ML89, is he from Galway? Because I just have this thing about Galway people and Kyle Mannion.
Kyle Mannion was bloody impressive. I tell you what,
he's great.
I take the standard of opposition into account, but he was so good last night.
Yeah, class. But can we? I know forwards get a lot of the attention, but Hugh Lawler, have we talked about him?
Why not? Best fullback in the country.
Is there
for a long time.
You know, he's unreal. He's unreal, isn't he?
He's an animal. He's an awful animal, man.
He's for me on top 5.
Yeah, I'm looking there, and the best way I'm trying to do that is pick out lads. Would I replace player X with player Y? That's the way. Like, I would be taking out. If I was putting in Hugh Lawler, I'd take out Tim O'Mahony. No offense to Tim O'Mahony at all. It's just a competitive list, but that'd be top 5 hurlers. You'd want to put a bit of time into that one now. You'd be terrified of leaving someone out. That's the main thing. And
if I was taking out someone as well, I'd have to look at the fox in now. Jesus, there's a fox there. I can see this is ridiculous. I want to get a picture of that. He's looking at me.
By all means, grab it. Murph, go on. Give us some of your top 5 hurlers there.
I'm looking at the comments here now. Like, at the moment, I hate not picking loads of Kilkenny lads. Musty got 1-3 again today. He like top scorer, I think, by about 5 or 6 points during the league.
So what's that now? Is that around? He's around 330 now, isn't he? At this stage,
he is. Yeah, but
maybe 430 actually.
If you look in the league, he was top scorer from play, but he was top scorer by about 7 points from play. So I think he scored about 28 points, and I think the next person up was about 21 points. Like in terms of a vein of form, that's top notch. And trying to think out Shane Barrett, he's outstanding. He's really, really good. Like, Brian Hayes absolutely is in top 5. You absolutely have to. In the current, since the start of the championship, you'd be going, Cathal Mannion has been really good. Albeit, I know some people will say, okay, Offaly, did they pose as much of a challenge in the second half? But even against Kilkenny, Galway were flat, Cathal Mannion was excellent. So, Yeah. I'm trying to think of anyone else there now that's really jumping out. There's no one.
That's a hard question. It's really...
It's a tough one. It's a tough one now at the moment.
Yeah, throw them into the comments. I mean, again, there's loads of people who are, throwing out suggestions at the moment. By the way, Martin Dillon, are you familiar with the day that we couldn't do a pod because Skehill was going to buy a gun? Now, when you say go get the gun fast, Skehill. Did you ever get that gun in Mayo, by the way?
I can't comment. I was warned by my Garda friends not to talk about it.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's warned not to talk about.
So I can either confirm or deny that, but let's just say if someone enters, I'd have something for them.
Bloody hell, right.
Damn it, I can't do that either.
No, you can't. Now you've gone way too far. Soccer Tim as well has made a fair point. It's like the power rankings. It changes every week, which is very fair. Again, I think Shane O'Donnell is fit. You're putting Shane O'Donnell in that top 5, and then someone's going to have a particularly good weekend. And you put him up there. But interesting to see who the guys respect. And also picking a fullback is definitely a different way of going about it here. And also to Soccer Tim. Complaining we went Tuesday last week. We didn't. We went Bank Holiday Monday. I'm just confused by the Bank Holidays going one after another. We had the pod out on Monday, didn't we? I think
we did. We had it out Monday night. I say you did. We recorded it about 3 o'clock, I'd say.
That's right.
And you had it out by about 8 o'clock. Because I was actually looking on YouTube last week. I think it was about 16,000 hits in one day. So it was controversial week of hurling. Was it controversial or just exciting? No, it was exciting. But but there was big traction. So there was obviously big hunger out there for it.
Last week. Oh boy. Just to address this before we do finish. So, I presume you saw the Ryan O'Dwyer clip, didn't you, at some point?
No.
I saw something about Ryan O'Dwyer. You were talking to him. And
I was talking to him on Monday, on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And Sarah Donovan.
What did he say?
Loads of Limerick fans got annoyed. So maybe this is the best place to address this.
Go on.
Which was, look, Ryan Dwyer had his opinion on it, which was he said that Limerick are like Olympic handball throwers with the way that they throw the ball around. And he was saying that the 3 frees were given against them last week was a matter of time. The referees are basically copping onto it. It's been happening for a long, long time. Some Limerick fans see it totally differently, particularly the fact that they felt that Will O'Donoghue was being fouled at the point that he had to do the over-the-top hand pass, which he was eventually pulled for, which ended up in the free at the end. By the way, I don't hate Limerick, which again, there was this feeling that for somehow I was endorsing a hatred of Limerick, or Ryan O'Dwyer or Sarah Donovan, who were on the segment, hate Limerick. They were talking about hand passes, and their feeling and their opinion, when I'm a presenter, as much as with the two lads here, I don't speak for Skehill or speak for Murphy when it comes to things. Their opinion is that this is happening. That's not me being sour against Limerick. Just like to highlight that. And by the way, the first question that came up about this was me asking about Bo potentially throwing it in the lead up to the Tipperary goal. So when you see a clip online, sometimes it looks much worse than it is. It's without the context entirely.
Oh yeah. Richie Hogan learned that one last year. I'll put that one for out of context because he was obviously new to the whole punditry game, and I think he said something about. I think it was Tipperary, Limerick, and Liam Call made a comment after the game, and Richie, a small segment of what Richie said was put up online or something like that.
I remember this,
and he was getting on to me going, but they didn't show the full thing. If they showed the full 10 minutes, I was like, that's not the way it works though. As in a minute gets out there, and people look at it and they don't understand there's context to the background of it. But the bottom line is that a big talking point, whether you're for it or against it, a big talking point is people are saying about the hand passes. That's one. The diving, that's another one. And these are conversations that have to be had. So whether you're against it or for it, or you think it's okay or not okay, these conversations have to be had.
And that's the joy of it as well, Gary, pointing out Anthony Nash afterwards. So naturally put to him, is this a massive issue? Is this? I think it was called in the Independent, and I'm sure Colin Keyes didn't write the headline, but it was written as Hurling's Scourge is the hand pass epidemic that we have at the moment. And he was basically praising the officials for making the calls on the weekend just gone by. So this conversation goes way beyond Limerick. I mean... I think in fairness to Ryan O'Dwyer, there's been quite a few for Limerick. We've been sitting here for 3 years in this podcast, and we've had people saying, you're not calling out Limerick enough, or this happens with Limerick. And I don't think it's that we're being specific on them, but I think we were talking about a game where it happened a lot the weekend before. And Ryan O'Dwyer is entitled to his opinion. If he feels that Limerick are doing it way more than any other team, by all means, he's welcome to that. As much as if Nash thinks it's not a problem. Because as far as Nash was concerned, he thought the game would be destroyed if we were calling all of these. He thinks because there's so many, situations where players take ball into contact that you got to have a way where they're able to push it away. And he feels that throws aren't the biggest issue around the place. And there's loads of people who think that as well. So by all means, argue it between yourselves. But it's not a case of us having some kind of bias against people. And again, I see it here. Keane Lynch throws the ball. This is always brought up. What I've noticed as well with Keane Lynch, again, not to defend Keane here, but just from my observation, you two can disagree or agree. I think Cian Lynch has got a really clever technique where he pops the ball incredibly quickly. And I think it's very, very hard to call that in real time. And I know he's given a couple of frees away for it, but generally he does get a little bit of separation, and he's just remarkably skillful at getting that ball away.
Yeah. Like the thing is with him is that it might be marginal at times, and maybe there is, and there's times where he does break the rules as much as any other player. But it is that thing that you're saying, Will, that he's so slick with his movement, like his hand-eye coordination and the skill he has in terms of controlling the ball is outstanding. I think he has everything at such fine margins that there's quite a few that people will get mad about that he's actually had separation where he hand passes it as well. So there is going to be even those ones that people don't talk about as well. So it's it's not black and white. It's not simple, those ones.
Yeah, well, there you go. Got to get those clickbait videos. Again, never my intention. I don't give a shit about video views, to be honest. And that's for the digital team to worry about if you want to do that. To be fair as well to the digital team, who I would slag off from time to time on this podcast and various other OTB moments that I might pop up in, I don't think they were trying to actually clickbait there at all. I think they showed very much what Ryan had said on the piece. It's absolutely fine. There's no issue there, but it is a wider discussion, and I know it is weird when it's behind a paywall and maybe you don't see it all, and people will react just to that. But I even saw, I think, on Reddit and a few other places, and even us last week. Bloody hell, the podcast absolutely went balubas. I think I sent you. I think I sent one of you a screenshot where there was 160 comments or something after about 8 hours. Yeah, I wasn't too worried about the views. I was more. I always get concerned when I see there's like 1 million comments underneath it.
Why is that? Something controversial said, is there something?
I don't know. I kind of gave up after 2 days. I usually read through them, but when I got that many, and even the Spotify was really, really busy for comments last week.
I think it was just it's kind of a bit of both. It's some people are reacting to things that were said, but also it's a platform where people actually, I can see a lot of discussions happening anytime like that now. I don't go in and read them all or anything, but you can just see from the tone of what's going on. Some people get into conversations in one, and it adds about 10 comments to it, but it's just people having conversations as well.
Yeah, that's it. Look, again, I suppose my point is I don't hate Limerick as much as Skehill does not hate Waterford, and Murph does not hate. Is there anyone you particularly hate? No?
Skehill. I'm only joking. No, there's not. Yeah. I haven't been accused, I don't think, of unless Waterford last year. Maybe that was one where I said that.
You were accused before about Cork.
Who did I say was going to beat them? Cork were going to beat them by 12? And they didn't.
You did, yeah. But you were accused last year. No, you were accused about Cork.
Was I?
Yeah.
Balls.
You were last year, the year before, was it? Yeah. You told me after you hated them, anyway.
I did. Sorry, I forgot about that, yeah.
Again, Mossy is probably right. It is just the nature of championship time, and maybe it is the nature where you've got 2 games and there were controversial decisions last week. It was more so not so much the views, it was more so just the amount of commentary that was underneath it. The only one that really compared was actually the golf the week before, which pissed loads of people off.
Oh, yeah.
That ended up going all over the place. It was like, I don't give a shit what James Skehill is doing. And James Skehill has clearly gone onto this podcast and decided that he's going to make an agenda because he's going to feel that he's the guy doing X, Y, and Z. That literally, by the way, happened entirely impromptu for anyone who thought we were messing around with it. Where I was about to hit record and Skehill goes, fuck off. That was a Monday as well, wasn't it? Yeah.
Like people ask me, how much rehearsal do you do? I'm like, 0. There's nothing. We hop on. How he lads? How's it all going? Right, sure, get this going. Record.
I'm fairly sure. Like I laughed. I can't remember what you said. The last thing you said before we started this pod was something hilarious, and I can't remember. But it was just if it made the pod, people would have been saying, "What were you talking about?" But last week, when Will pressed record, I think you might have edited it out. Will Skehill was talking about drinks, and he just said porn star martini.
Yes,
and like the first 2 words of the podcast, whether Will caught it or not, it was Skehill going porn star martini, and I was like, that's perfect. Leave that in. That's just great. No, it probably wasn't. But,
if that is the Chris Stockroom Tim, when I see this, it was mainly people having to go at Adam Hogan and calling him names you wouldn't hear in a soccer terrace. I'm glad I didn't read them then, because I care not for personal attacks on players and so on. And again, it was one of those, look, by all means, talk to each other in the comments, talk to you in the live chat, whatever. But try and keep it somewhat civil. We try and be a reasonably civil podcast here. So yeah, I never look at it. Richard Hogan, when am I taking over from Matt Cooper? I'm not ever permanently taking over from Matt Cooper, but I will be hosting The Last Word on Today FM on Tuesday. So if you're that way inclined.
Nice.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Yeah. I've my availability, Murph, is my main plus point.
I would say your biggest challenge is I'm always massively impressed at your depth of knowledge in different sports. And I was like, if you're taking over from Matt Cooper, you then have to branch out into politics and you have to branch out into economics and all that stuff. So you have to stop watching sports. So I'm like, I don't want you presenting the last word, if I'm honest, Will, to be honest. Maybe you want to present it? I don't know.
I have no idea. Look, I think I just fake it till I make it, depending on what the various programs are. The last week has been a really weird last few weeks. So I was on like breakfast, did a few PM shows. Now the last word. It's just kind of look whatever. Yeah, just talk to you guys. You guys are what makes my week. In fairness. And yes, the best ability is availability. That's exactly what I was thinking. And I'm very, very available for whatever hosting needs that you might have at the moment. I think that's our lot. I don't think there's anything else too crazy here.
The bog in about 6 weeks' time.
Which bog in about 6 weeks' time?
Be available for the bog. I think that's what he's talking about.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, the weather's been good. It might be a bit more
available. Get your work, son.
Might be a bit closer, that's it. Right, we'll finish off on this one because I see 2 hours is about to tick up, which is
no further update. Move on quickly.
Have you not watched any of them? No?
Not a bit.
It's a tricky one. We have absolutely tried our best on this one. Road show this year or two has come up. I have no update on this currently. I believe that we will. I'm just waiting to see what happens around sponsorships and so on before we go. But I'm mad keen to go. And I'm mad keen. I think I've said this to a few people on the Spotify. If I was listening on the Spotify comments right now, which have been kind of hopping the last few weeks too. I would like to go somewhere we haven't gone before if we do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm not sure if that is Kilkenny. I'm not sure if that's Clare. I'm not sure exactly where we go.
Yep.
What's your preference? Where would you like to go?
I'd like to go to one of your places.
Okay.
Yeah. David Henry. This is a good time of year for you. Well, the dinner dances, MC jobs, they're not there to take up your time at the moment. Do you know what? You'd be surprised by the amount of places. My Waddy could by all means sponsor us to go for a live show. There's actually quite a few clubs that I presume get a really good rate that still do dinner dances and so on. And remember, other places also, other sports also have their events as well. To be fair, I have tried to go back on them as much as they've become a running joke on the crappy quiz and so on. I try not to do them too much. Antrim make a weekend of it. Imagine that. David, do you want to stay up and have a chat with Skehill?
Yeah, let's rock.
Yeah, I'd be all for going to Cork.
Yeah,
I see a few people have said that. I would be 100% up for that. We've obviously been to Limerick twice. We've done Dublin a couple of times now at this stage as well. I'm not saying that we've run out of material for those venues, but I would like to go somewhere else if we do. So, yeah. All right. I think that is it. Murph, back at the set there now. What?
Book the set.
Oh,
set
sorry, book the set.
Set is Medford. Yeah, true.
I wouldn't be against it all. I did a video with you guys there. It's a pretty cool looking venue, actually.
It's perfect. I know the attendance is about 300, I would say, about that.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Joseph there, somewhere in the Midlands. By all means, I will do Burr, no problem. Bring the two guys over. We did a kind of an unofficial hurling pod in Cabatagal last year.
Oh, yeah, we did too, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I would have no problem road showing it in Burr. And there was definitely a few pubs at home who would do it, and we'd wheel out a few lads who were a bit of crack from the 1990s to tell a few stories on the night as well. Other thing to watch out for tomorrow, I'm talking to Willie Maher in the morning in Croke Park. I know we're going to do a podcast with him at some stage, but that will be out at some point during the day tomorrow as well. Aaron Grimes, Burr 100%. Best believe. Best place to go. All right, folks. Thanks a million for listening to us again. This has been a very, very long podcast, but it is nice to connect to you guys again. Go pure mule in the Midlands, by all means. Dwyer, Callan and McGrath. It's probably not a long trip for you if we go somewhere in the South Midlands as well. Paul Murphy, it's been a pleasure as always. Thanking you, sir.
Thanks very much, lads.
James Skehill, we shall see you again.
Good luck, see you.
Go on out and get the sheep, will you?
It's gone dark now.
That doesn't mean it's not going to get in.
Yeah, but sheep are elusive.
Shane Power, see you in the members pod. You will. Yeah. We'll have the member pod done very soon. All right, best of luck. See you, lads.